The great wave of magical technology. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 251. Climbing the tower. The white bones under their feet made a creaking sound as they walked. The sudden sound in the dead silence made everyone feel a little scared, but in the end they still walked towards the interior of the demon ceiling tower without hesitation. I'm afraid the bones here were trapped here to death. After so many years, maybe there is nothing left in the demon ceiling tower, Ogden Rodney suddenly said. After a while, Yunfan and others finally stood at the end of the first floor of the demon ceiling tower. They saw a long corridor spreading at the end of the stone steps, and a small bridge made of black bones was built on both sides of the stone steps. Since they had no choice, they did not hesitate, and walked into the stone steps. Yunfan held a magic lamp in his hand, stepped carefully on the bone stone platform, and slowly walked to the second floor. The bone bridges on the stone steps have begun to weather gradually. When you step on them, they make crackling sounds. People who walk on them stagger, making everyone's body slightly unstable. They don't know what's going on, but the 5 people feel a little creepy after taking a look. When they stepped into the second floor, they looked around and found that the outer area they saw with their eyes, all the way to their feet, was a dark scene of death. Could it be that all the evil things in the demon ceiling tower have died? Zaya muttered in a low voice. If that's the case, that's good. Yunfan touched his chin slightly with his hand and said unintentionally. Everyone climbed to the 5th floor of the demon ceiling tower. 2 grey-brown doors made of unknown materials appeared in front of everyone. They saw strange patterns carved on the doors, green faces, fangs, and wings on their backs, giving people a feeling of being fierce and evil. This shape should be a demon from the abyss, Yunfan said with a slight frown. I didn't expect that little brother actually knew about the demons in the abyss. Ogden Rodney looked Yunfan up and down and said, the entire continent has not seen an abyss demon for thousands of years, and there are very few records of abyss demons on the continent. Abyss demons are extremely powerful among dark creatures. Every adult abyss demon has a holy rank, and even many abyss demons have broken through to the demigod level. In the divine consciousness that Yunfan swallowed up that trace of the god, there was a memory of the abyss demon. From that memory, he knew that the abyss demon in front of the door must be one of the best. On the grey-brown facade, there are some complex and cumbersome magic patterns. At the intersection of the 2 facades in the middle, there is a pattern like Huarang Road. It seems that this Huarang Road pattern is the key to opening the door. As soon as Zia wanted to move the patterns, she was stopped by Ogden Rodney. Don't move those things casually, girl. If you make a mistake, something unexpected will happen. I didn't expect that there would be a combination lock in another world, Yunfan thought to himself. Except for Yunfan, everyone else looked at the complicated pattern at a loss. There are 9 in a row, 9 rows in total, and 81 pieces in total. If you make a mistake, I'm afraid it won't be able to open. The content on the golden card involuntarily appeared in Yunfan's mind. Yunfan looked at the pattern on the stone door thoughtfully. I do have a little idea. If you trust me, let me try it, Yunfan suddenly said. I don't know how sure you are, kid, Zia asked distrustfully. If I say I'm absolutely sure, do you believe it? Yunfan raised the corner of his mouth slightly, with a hint of mockery. Haha, kind of interesting. Zibia laughed, but there was a hint of coldness in his eyes when he looked at Yunfan. He thought to himself, you damned little bastard, you dare to talk to me like that. When you are no longer of any use, I will punish you. What do you think? Yunfan looked at the others except Zibia. Cassidy hesitated at this moment. He didn't want to put his hope on others, but he also knew that he had no choice now, so he nodded in the end. Ogden Rodney looked at Yunfan meaningfully and said, in that case, it all depends on you, little brother. Yunfan nodded slightly, and finally walked slowly to the front of the gate, thinking and carefully moving each pattern. At this time, no one noticed that a beam of golden light suddenly shot out from Yunfan's hand. During this process, Yunfan never touched the pattern with his hands. Ji Yunfan vaguely felt that the reason why he could move each pattern was because of the golden card in his mind. If he didn't get this card, he probably couldn't do anything at all. According to the prompts of the golden card, he moved the pattern to the corresponding position. A roar came, and the door suddenly creaked to both sides, and the pattern in the center also automatically split apart. Brother Dante, I didn't expect you to be so powerful that you can open this door easily, Zaya said happily. Ji Yunfan nodded slightly. To be honest, if other people could do it, he really didn't want to take the lead. He could now vaguely feel the vigilance of the other two people besides Zaya and Grandpa Ogden. It seems that the two of them have regarded me as a hidden opponent. I'm afraid they didn't think highly of me at the beginning. Now they are both faintly on guard. It seems that it's not easy to get the benefits. Ji Yunfan smiled bitterly in his heart. Little brother, you did a great job. Zibia patted Ji Yunfan's shoulder fiercely, with an admiring look. However, Ji Yunfan understood that Zibia was warning him, telling him not to ruin his good deeds. Ji Yunfan didn't care about this at all. He was very confident in his own strength. He was confident that, even if he couldn't beat this old guy, he would still have no problem escaping. The door to the 4th floor of the demon ceiling tower was opened, and the tower was dark. Dust came out from inside as the door opened, causing everyone to cough several times. They waved their hands to pat off the dust, then they calmed down and began to look at everything inside. Ahem. Why is the environment in here so dirty? As the only girl, Zaya couldn't help but complain. Chapter 252, the 4th floor of the demon ceiling tower. The 4th floor of the demon ceiling tower is much smaller than the other floors. There is a huge 7-pointed star magic circle in the middle, which is 80% similar to the magic circle Ji Yunfan saw outside before. There are some more ancient magic patterns painted in the 7-pointed star magic circle. The 4th floor of the demon ceiling tower is empty, with only a few magic stone pillars supporting the huge building. The bones stored in the 4th floor are much less than those in other floors. It seems that the higher the floor, the higher the level of the sealed evil things, and the fewer the number of sealed evil things. Ji Yunfan said thoughtfully. There is a strong smell of decay in the air. Everyone stood at the door and waited for a while. After feeling the decay inside gradually spread out as the door opened, they slowly walked in. The 7-pointed star magic circle corresponds to a tall cross. Each cross is tied with a skeleton with iron chains. This means that the skeleton has been tortured before death. Ji Yunfan began to think. He had obtained some information about the demon ceiling tower from the golden card. However, as time passed, this information was no longer accurate and could only be used as a reference for exploring the demon ceiling tower. The golden card pointed out that only when you reach the 4th floor of the demon ceiling tower can you truly reach the core of the demon ceiling tower. What is the relationship between the golden card and the demon ceiling tower? This puzzled Ji Yunfan, and he fell into deep thought for a while. This demon ceiling tower has 4 floors in total. This is already the 4th floor. How come there seems to be nothing except a few bones? Zibia roared with a ferocious face. At the same time, except for Ji Yunfan and Zia, the faces of others were also very ugly. After thinking for a long time, these people still felt that the demon ceiling tower could not be as simple as everyone saw. There should be some secrets. They immediately stood up and patrolled around the 4th floor again. Finally, several people found a strange place in the center of the room on the 4th floor, but Zibia and others were overjoyed. Zibia tapped the ground with his fingers and suddenly pushed hard. With a rumbling sound, a dark passage suddenly tore out not far from him, and a stone platform suddenly rose slowly from the ground and appeared in front of everyone. A fist-sized flame flickered on the stone platform, as if it was about to go out. There was a thin piece of paper next to the cafeteria, only a thin piece of paper, on which was written a paragraph of ancient mysterious characters. Underground fire. Ogden Rodney suddenly exclaimed involuntarily. Although he could not recognize much of the words on the thin paper, he still recognized the 2 words underground fire. Could this little flame be the underground fire? It seems that it is not even as good as the fire of the alien fire beast. Ji Yunfan whispered to himself. What do you know, kid? That's because the ground fire has been sealed here for who knows how many years. It can't get energy replenishment, so it slowly degrades. Sakuden said angrily. The ground fire now should be considered the lowest level of ground fire. Even the lowest level of ground fire is enough for you. Sakuden, do you think I have a good chance of getting the base fire now? Yunfan looked around at the people around him involuntarily. If you only look at the rank level, the possibility of you getting it is very low. But you also have advantages that others don't have. Sakuden said after a moment of silence. Are there any advantages that others don't have? Yunfan asked puzzledly. The ground fire is not so easy to be subdued. Although it is not as violent as the beast fire, among the few people present, only you know how to comprehend the origin of fire. Sakuden explained. To comprehend the origin of fire, do you mean it's like comprehending the violent emotions felt in beast fire? Earth fire is different from beast fire. Beast fire carries the hatred of beasts for humans, while earth fire is different. Earth fire has the tolerance of the earth for all things. But the principle of feeling their origins is the same, but it is more difficult to make the earth fire recognize it. Even a demigod level strongman cannot force the earth fire to recognize its master. It sounds very powerful. Even I only truly controlled an earth fire when I reached the lower god level. Forget it, it's useless for you to say so much now. Everyone, I think you know the purpose of my trip. No matter what, please give me this earth fire. Ogden Rodney said to the others in a very solemn tone. I can give you a certain amount of compensation when I go back. Ogden, it seems that you old guy are really greedy. You actually want to take the earth fire for yourself. I'm afraid this earth fire is the most valuable in the tomb of demigod. Berkeley said sarcastically. Grandpa Ogden, I will never give up this earth fire no matter what. Cassidy was silent for a moment and then said firmly. In that case, let's see who's the real deal. Ogden Rodney looked at the two people with a cold tone. The battle was about to break out, but none of the three people planned to take the initiative, because the strength of the three people was almost the same, and no one wanted to let the third person take advantage, while the mantis stalked the cicada. Just when the three people were in a stalemate, suddenly a black shadow appeared in front of everyone, stretched out his hand, and grabbed the earth fire away, and then fled away. What? Everyone present was shocked. They didn't expect that I would kill someone like Cheng Yaojin halfway. Damn it, chase it. The three people quickly turned over and chased the black shadow that swept away the earth fire. Only Yunfan and Zaya were left on the 4th floor of the demon ceiling tower. I sensed a very familiar aura from that black shadow, as if I had seen that black shadow somewhere before. Yunfan frowned slightly, and that black shadow actually had a faint ominous aura. Who exactly is that black shadow? What are you still sighing about here? No matter who the black shadow is, or what he does, as long as we can get the earth fire, if we don't stop, the earth fire will really belong to someone else. Sakuden said with some regret. Sakuden, you really think highly of me. The most important thing for a person is to have a little self-knowledge. If my strength is not much different from theirs, I can actually compete with them. Yunfan smiled slightly and said, maybe there is something amazing here. Forget it, whatever you say makes sense. Chapter 253 Bronze Coffin. Brother Dante, do you think Grandpa can get the earth fire? Zaya asked nervously. Don't worry, little girl. Don't you know your grandpa's strength? It's because I know grandpa's strength that I'm worried. Because of his injury, grandpa can't show his true strength at all. Don't worry. Your grandpa has crossed more bridges than we have walked. Yunfan didn't know how to comfort Zaya for a while. Instead of waiting here foolishly, we might as well take a good look here. Maybe there will be some unexpected gains. Yunfan looked around and suggested. Brother Dante, you are right. Isn't it said that there is the secret of becoming a god here? Maybe we are lucky and can find it. This little girl is really optimistic. Yunfan smiled and shook his head. Fiefan boy, there seems to be other problems here. Sakuden's surprised voice suddenly sounded in Yunfan's heart. Maybe it was the right choice for you not to compete with them for the multi-earth fire. No way. Yunfan said in disbelief. Could it be that Zaya is right? Can we really find the secret of becoming a god here? Use your mental power to look at that stone platform carefully. Sakuden said. What's going on? Why can't my mental power see through it at all? Need I explain? It's because of the rune patterns on it. If I hadn't been so knowledgeable and well remembered back then, even I would have overlooked the patterns on it. Sakadin said, "You're going to do this later." As Sakadin spoke, he transmitted the operation process to Ji Yunfan's mind through mental power. Ji Yunfan nodded slightly, then glanced at Xia beside him and said, "Little girl, I'm going to do something else later, and I don't want you to tell anyone about what you saw." "Can't you even tell grandpa?" "Yes, that's right. You can't even tell your grandpa. This is a secret between the two of us. How about it?" Ji Yunfan said solemnly. "Is this a secret between the two of us?" Xia narrowed his eyes slightly, then nodded seriously. "Don't worry, brother Dante. I will never tell anyone, not even grandpa." After getting Xia's affirmative answer, Ji Yunfan nodded slightly. "Do you really believe what this little girl says? What if this little girl betrays you? Why not give this little girl too, so that it's all over?" Sakadin suggested evilly. "Why are you so evil, old man? My advice is for your own good, but you take my kindness for granted." Sakadin pouted and said, "You will be ruined by your character sooner or later. Forget it. I won't say this anymore. You won't listen to me if I say too much." Ji Yunfan shook his head slightly. He was helpless about Sakadin's evil heart. But sometimes he was thinking that maybe he could live longer if he was as evil as Sakadin. But if he really did that, would he still be himself? Ji Yunfan operated according to the operation method Sakadin passed to him, and soon the stone platform split like a combination lock. What appeared in front of Ji Yunfan and Xia was a bronze coffin, which made people feel very uneasy. "Millimeters, why do I see coffins everywhere these days?" Ji Yunfan muttered as he looked at the bronze coffin in front of him. "Does it mean that I have a connection with the dead? What's going on?" Xia looked at Ji Yunfan in disbelief and said, "Did brother Dante come here before? How is that possible?" Ji Yunfan shook his head and pushed the lid of the bronze coffin to the side, raising a cloud of dust. At this moment, he and Xia were both surprised. They noticed that there was a flame in the coffin. The flame was very different from ordinary flames. The color of the flame changed every few seconds: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and purple. Looking closely, it was the color of the rainbow. "Sakadin, what kind of flame is this? Is it the legendary sky fire? I have never encountered such a flame before. Judging from the intensity of the flame, this should be just earth fire. But is there such a form of earth fire?" Sakadin said at a loss. "Forget it. This world is infinite. Can you be sure that you know all the flames? No matter what kind of flame it is, the most important thing now is to subdue it first, so as to avoid more troubles at night," Ji Yunfan said. Ji Yunfan released his mental power while speaking, and carefully communicated with the flame. But when Ji Yunfan's mental power approached the core of the flame, Ji Yunfan vaguely felt a sense of rejection. That emotion seemed to say that everything in the world could not be compared with him. This little thing is too narcissistic. Ji Yunfan couldn't help but underestimate it. Narcissism? What narcissism? Sakadin was a little confused. Ji Yunfan did not explain anything, and used mental power to convey his goodwill, but the flame seemed to be disdainful. Just when Ji Yunfan felt that he had no choice, the seedling of the world tree in his sea of consciousness suddenly burst out with a colorful beam of light from his mental power, and a colorful beam of light suddenly burst out, wrapping the flames that kept changing colors in front of him. At the same time, the flame that kept changing colors seemed to have encountered a natural enemy, constantly trying to get rid of the colorful beams. Seeing this, Ji Yunfan felt a little incredible. Whether in the original world or in the current world, fire restrains wood, and in this narcissistic flame, Ji Yunfan actually felt that the flame was afraid. "Forget it, don't worry about it." Ji Yunfan shook his head slightly and used his mental power to communicate with the flame again. However, this time Ji Yunfan did not feel the narcissistic emotion just now in the flame, but instead replaced it with a faint sense of fear. How about the little guy recognizing me as the master? Perhaps because it felt Ji Yunfan's meaning, the speed of the flame changing color increased a lot, as if it was thinking about something. At this time, Ji Yunfan suddenly felt that the seedling of the world tree also conveyed a trace of emotional fluctuations. It was emotional fluctuations, as if saying, "If you don't listen to me, I will erase your consciousness." Chapter 254, Origin of Fire. Chapter 255. In an instant, Ji Yunfan felt the kindness of the constantly changing flames. Then, along with Ji Yunfan's spiritual power, the constantly changing flames entered his deep sea and floated under the roots of the seedlings of the world tree. It is indeed the seedling of the world tree. It can even subdue flames. At this moment, a picture suddenly appeared in Ji Yunfan's mind. In a pitch black environment, a flame suddenly flashed out. The flames instantly broke out with the momentum of a prairie fire. It is unknown how long the flames burned. The whole world was red. In the process of the flames burning, a lot of flame creatures were slowly formed. In this way, the flames actually created a world. Slowly, various species appeared in this world, and the flames also consumed too much energy, and eventually turned into a ball of flames. The flames were just like the one Ji Yunfan had subdued now, constantly changing colors. The Kuska continent was actually created by this ball of flames. Ji Yunfan felt that his worldview had collapsed. Ji Yunfan himself didn't know that the flame he had conquered had a very domineering name, the World Fire, and some people called it the Origin Fire. The flame that was just taken away by the man in black was just a phantom created by the Origin Fire. When he left the Origin Fire, it would disappear in a few days. Ji Yunfan also learned from the information conveyed to him by the Origin Fire that the reason why no one in this world has become a god is because the first owner recognized by the Origin Fire sealed the path to godhood on this continent and even cut off the connection with other continents of the god's continent. The reason why the first owner recognized by the Origin Fire made this decision was not because he was afraid that someone on the continent would surpass him, but because a very evil force appeared on the continent. That force wanted to destroy the entire continent. The first owner had to make this decision, and even the first owner died in that war. The Origin Fire has always recognized only one owner. For example, the so-called demigod Hans Christopher is not actually the owner of the Origin Fire. It's just that the Origin Fire lent him the power. Hans Christopher finally left the continent to become a god. Just when Ji Yunfan was shocked by the truth of the matter, the 11 demigods and the fire godhead that Ji Yunfan had originally stored in his sea of consciousness suddenly flew towards the origin of fire. At this moment, Ji Yunfan felt that he could completely control this demigod. Although he could control this demigod, he could not exert the full strength of the demigod due to his insufficient mental power. Even excessive use would cause certain damage to his foundation. However, as long as his mental power reached the demigod level, he could become a true demigod level strongman. With a satisfied smile on his face, Ji Yunfan knew in his heart that what he got from this trip to the tomb of the demigod was far more than others thought. Zaya, although I don't know what kind of flame I got, I guess it shouldn't be bad. After we get out, if Grandpa Ogden didn't get the earth fire, let me try to see if I can cure your illness. Okay. Zaya said happily. I don't know how Grandpa is doing now. Ji Yunfan and Zaya searched the 4th floor of the demon ceiling tower for a while and found that there was really nothing in the demon ceiling tower, so they returned along the original route. On the 1st floor of the demon ceiling tower, Ogden, Rodney and the other two had surrounded the Black Shadow Man. What is the identity of this man in black? Why do I feel more and more familiar with him? Ji Yunfan said to himself. Isn't this guy the guy called Fran Waters? Sakuden suddenly said. How is this possible? Fran Waters' strength should be only a little higher than mine at the beginning. Now the strength that this Black Shadow Man has burst out has reached the 8th level. This Black Shadow Man gives me a very strange feeling. Ji Yunfan was puzzled. I sensed an ominous aura on him. I'm afraid this guy is no longer himself. Sakuden said. If he's not himself, could he be possessed? Ji Yunfan's face changed slightly. The feeling he gave me is different from being possessed. I'm afraid this guy's identity is not simple either. Sakuden said. Forget it. I can't care so much. Let's find a way to get rid of him first. Hey, Yunfan boy, why are you in such a hurry? Ogden, Rodney and others were in a state of ups and downs. In their opinion, this was related to their future, and no one could be calm. Who are you? Fran Waters should not be your real identity, right? Ogden Rodney asked expressionlessly. Old man, I didn't expect you to recognize me. The Black Shadow Man seemed very surprised. You know, his current dress is completely different from the beginning. I didn't expect it to be you. I just didn't find you when I entered the demon ceiling tower, so I guessed that you should be hiding somewhere, paying attention to our progress. Ogden Rodney said in a low voice. Since you asked sincerely, I will be merciful and tell you. My other identity is Antonia Waters. The Shadow Man said grimly. Antonia Waters, this name is the same as the name of the Dark Saint? Ogden Rodney frowned slightly. It's not that my name is the same as the name of the Dark Saint, but the Dark Saint is what people on the continent called me a long time ago. The Shadow Man said dimly. I can't believe that so many years have passed. What do you mean you are the legendary Dark Saint? Didn't you die a long time ago? Including Ogden Rodney, everyone felt very incredible. Death is both an end and a beginning for a Dark Saint. The Shadow Man said dimly. Could it be that the legend is true? You have already comprehended the mystery of life and death, and reached the point where you can live forever? Ogden Rodney asked, staring at the Shadow Man. Understand the secrets of life and death. People on the continent think too highly of him. Even the real upper gods don't dare to say that they understand the secrets of life and death. Sakhardan said in a contemptuous tone, in my opinion, this guy has only understood a little bit of the mystery of the soul. Is it like you did before, taking over another body? Chapter 255 Antonia. No wonder I felt an ominous aura on him. It turns out that this ominous aura comes from his soul. A saint can survive in this world for 1000 years, and his soul has long been decayed. If I'm not mistaken, this guy always possesses his direct descendants in order to survive. Sakhardan said slowly. Oh my god, there are such people in this world. Yunfan was a little speechless. He has always believed that even a tiger will not eat its own cubs. If I'm not mistaken, the reason why he came to plunder the earth fire is to use the power of the earth fire to dissolve the ominous aura in his soul. His soul is dying and can no longer support him to possess another body. Sakhardan said, and it's not a simple matter to use the earth and purify his soul. Since you now know that I have understood the secret of life and death, I will give you a chance now. Be my subordinates and I will grant you eternal life. How about it? The Black Shadow Man Antonia Waters said with a smile and squinting eyes, her voice full of endless temptation. This? Can you really give us eternal life? Zibia asked with a fiery face. Of course, if I hadn't understood the secret of life and death, how could I have lived until now? The shadowy Antonia Waters continued. Immortality is the wish of every cultivator. The words of the shadowy Antonia Waters made everyone a little moved. No one noticed the cold light in the shadowy Antonia Waters' eyes. What do you mean by understanding the secret of life and death? It's just that I'm taking over the body of my own descendants to survive. Yunfan sneered. Boy, what do you mean by this? Do you doubt that I haven't understood the secret of life and death? Life and death are in the hands of God. Even the upper gods have never understood the secret of life and death. Just relying on you, a small dark saint, to want to understand the secret of life and death. You think too highly of yourself, don't you? Yunfan smiled and shook his head and said, I want the earth fire just to purify my soul and make my soul reach the requirements of taking over the body of my descendants. Who are you? You actually know these secrets? The shadowy Antonia Waters looked at Yunfan in disbelief. You have to know that this method of possessing his own offspring was discovered by him from an ancient relic. Even his closest people did not know about it. Boy, do you know you have made a big mistake? If you just secretly swallowed this secret in your stomach, I might give you a chance to live, but now that you know my secret, I will never let you go. Do you think I will believe what you said? Yunfan asked with a smile. The so-called method of purifying the soul will probably require a considerable price. Even if we surrender to you, you will definitely not tell us the secret of possessing the body. I really underestimated you, little guy. I didn't expect that you are the only one who sees it most thoroughly among everyone. The shadow man Antonia Waters raised the corners of her mouth slightly, as if chatting with a good friend she hadn't seen for many years. To be honest, I wanted to save some soul power, but I didn't expect that my plan would be disrupted by you, kid. Do you know? Anyone who goes against me will definitely not have a good end. I like the souls of those who go against me. I will put your soul into the hellfire and burn it for 100 years. Antonia Waters, I didn't expect you to treat us as fools. You were a saint level strongman back then, but your current strength is probably much worse. Otherwise you wouldn't have stolen the earth fire when we weren't paying attention. After Yunfan's reminder, the others also thought of something. Even if my strength is no longer a saint level as it was back then, it's still easy to deal with you little guys. The Black Shadow Antonia Waters said in a cold tone. In that case, let's see who's the winner. Cassidy said. The smile on the corner of the Black Shadow Antonia Waters' mouth slowly widened, and in the end, she couldn't help laughing. Very good. Since you want to challenge my authority, then I will fulfill your wish. Because the Black Shadow Antonia Waters took over the body of her descendant, Fran Waters. Her body was not very old, and her voice was a little childish, which didn't match what she said at all, as if she was pretending to be deep, giving people a very strange feeling. Listening to the arrogant laughter of Antonia Waters, the Black Shadow Man, Yunfan and others looked at each other, and their hearts tightened involuntarily. As the saying goes, a lean camel is bigger than a horse. Although this dark saint is no longer a saint, he may still have considerable means. On the first floor of the demon ceiling tower, a fiery red light suddenly flashed, followed by a large cloud of fire, rushing madly towards the Black Shadow Man. The Black Shadow Man's body was somewhat burnt by the fire cloud, and his eyes were full of anger. He never thought that he would be forced to this point by these guys. Ogden Rodney has actually touched the edge of the holy level of the essence of fire magic. Undead hidden in the darkness, I ask you to come to the world in the name of the contractor, to help me destroy the enemy in front of me. This is the 8th level dark magic, the summoning of the dead. Yunfan exclaimed. Damn, hasn't the summoning of the dead been lost? Zibia cursed. The guy in front of me is a dark saint from 10,000 years ago. How could he not know the undead summoning technique? You know, it is said that he escaped from the siege of 4 saints with the undead summoning technique. Cassidy took a deep breath and said, don't talk so much. Interrupt him. Don't let his undead summoning technique be completed. Ogden Rodney's reminder was a little late. Just as he finished speaking, a pitch black door appeared in front of everyone. Yunfan was very familiar with the breath of the undead. From this pitch black door, Yunfan felt the endless power of death. Yunfan knew that there must be very powerful undead behind this pitch black door. The pitch black door opened in vain, and then a group of death knights wearing armor and riding white bone horses came out of the black door one by one. Tramp. Suddenly, a black shadow jumped out from the black gate and ran towards Yunfan at an extremely fast speed. Its sharp claws actually clawed at Yunfan fiercely through the air. Chapter 256 Undead Bone Wolf. Yunfan subconsciously dodged to the side, avoiding the cold wind. What the hell is going on? Why did it attack me instead of the others? But no one expected that the black shadow would turn around and pounce on Yunfan again. Yunfan hurriedly hid inside, and when he lowered his head, he found that his face was slightly hot, and a deep blood mark appeared on his face. It seemed that something was flowing and extending to his elbow. The burning pain came quickly. It's an undead bone wolf, a 6th level undead. Sakuden reminded. Of course I know it's an undead bone wolf, but why did this thing attack me instead of the others? Damn, it's so fast. Yunfan took a deep breath and felt his scalp go cold. If the speed was a little slower, I'm afraid it would be his chest that was torn open. Yunfan hurriedly circulated the fighting spirit in his body and quickly distanced himself from the undead bone wolf. You hid pretty fast, but it's a pity that you won't be able to see tomorrow's sunrise alive this time. A cold voice slowly came out from the mouth of the shadow man Antonia Waters. There are so many people here, why are you staring at me? Yunfan said unhappily. But you ruined my plan, and I think you are the easiest to get rid of among so many people. The shadow man Antonia Waters said calmly. Sister, do you mean to look down on me? Among the few of you, except for the little girl, your strength is the weakest, but you give me a very strange feeling. It seems that ignoring you will cause great trouble. Do you think I should get rid of you first? The shadow man Antonia Waters had a strange smile on her stiff face. I didn't expect that I would have such a great influence in your heart. Yunfan was puzzled, but he didn't spare anyone's words. He said sarcastically, I'm afraid that I'm getting more and more timid as I get older. You are very brave now. I will refine your body into my baby in a while. The Black Shadow Antonia Waters looked at Ji Yunfan with a ferocious face, as if she wanted to eat him alive. Then we'll see if you have the ability to do it. Ji Yunfan snorted coldly. Boy, if you hadn't been so talkative just now, these guys might have already surrendered to me, and I could have wasted less soul power. The Black Shadow Antonia Waters glared at Ji Yunfan fiercely and said, "What the hell does this have to do with me?" Ji Yunfan pouted. "You bastard who knows nothing, you ruined my big plan. Today I will make you taste 10 times, 100 times my pain." The Black Shadow Antonia Waters roared, venting the endless resentment in her heart. Ji Yunfan couldn't help but sneer, staring at the Black Shadow Antonia Waters and said, "It's just a thing that's neither human nor undead." Before Ji Yunfan finished speaking, 2 more bone wolves appeared in front of the Black Shadow Antonia Waters, which made Ji Yunfan's mood suddenly become very bad. He was too lazy to talk nonsense with this crazy guy. The first to strike is the strongest, and the last to strike will suffer. Without thinking too much, Ji Yunfan directly summoned the skeleton warrior he had transformed, but Ji Yunfan didn't think that he could solve the current situation with a skeleton warrior. The transformed skeleton warrior was equivalent to the level of a 5th level warrior, but it was still a little worse than the 6th level bone wolf. "Why are you still going to retain your strength?" Ji Yunfan looked at Berkeley, who seemed to have no intention of taking action. Not to mention, Berkeley really wanted to continue to watch the fire from the other side of the river, but after Ji Yunfan said this, he had to give up his original plan. Meteor step. Star chasing sword style. Berkeley, whose plan was disrupted, had no choice but to move forward with his sword and used a killing move on the shadowy Antonia Waters. Hellfire. Ogden Rodney had a good impression of Ji Yunfan, so he naturally didn't want to see him suffer, so he quickly used the 7th level fire magic Hellfire to support him. A huge ball of flame suddenly exploded in front of Ji Yunfan. The power of this flame was extraordinary and had a very strong killing power on the bone wolf. The bone wolf that was originally preparing to chase Ji Yunfan was directly isolated outside the flame. Such a pure fire magic element, such a powerful hellfire. The old ones are the wisest. Antonia Waters, the Black Shadow person, dodged Berkeley's sword moves and praised him involuntarily. "If I had seen this when my teacher was still alive, I might have accepted you as my apprentice." The surroundings were noisy, and the bones on the ground turned into ashes in the flames. Antonia Waters, the Black Shadow person, used her magic shield to resist the power of the hellfire and took a look at the bone wolves that had turned into ashes. "Thank you, Grandpa Ogden." Ji Yunfan hurriedly thanked him. His eyes stared at Ogden Rodney ferociously, as if he would not stop until he killed Ogden Rodney. He raised his hand, and several black shadows rushed out of the summoning gate in succession. These black shadows ran very fast. Under the command of Antonia Waters, they quickly gathered around him, like a team of gluttons ready to hunt. There were 10 bone wolves in total. Ogden Rodney summoned 10 of these high-level 6th level undead monsters around him, which showed that he was very skilled in summoning magic. You know, the strength of a summoning dark mage depends on the level of the summoned undead on the one hand, and on the number of summoned undead on the other hand. After the level of the summoned creature exceeds the 5th level, it is very difficult to control multiple high-level undead. High-level undead already have high intelligence. Hellfire spreads. Ogden Rodney's low voice sounded, and the extremely hot hellfire suddenly spread, and the 10 bone wolves turned into ashes in an instant. "Old boy, you are so powerful. The second stage of hellfire can be used. I'm afraid it is not far from the holy level." The Shadow Man Antonia Waters, "It seems that I really underestimated you at the beginning." Seeing the flames all over the sky and the bone wolves turned into ashes, Berkeley's expression was very complicated, and his eyes were full of coldness when he looked at Ogden Rodney. The shadowy Antonia Waters glanced fiercely at Ogden Rodney, and a cruel smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. The more this happens, the more interesting it is. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 257 Frostbone Dragon. Since the Bone Wolf can't kill you, let's try this. Come out, Frostbone Dragon. 8th level high level Frostbone Dragon. Yunfan couldn't help but moan in a low voice. Dark sky, descend. Roar. Bang. Bang. The stone steps were hit hard, leaving several deep marks, and even the creaking and swinging sound of the Frostbone Dragon could be heard. The 8th level high level Frost is already a top level undead among the undead, with intelligence no less than that of ordinary humans. It has no sense of belonging to the mage who summoned it from another world. As a powerful and natural king, it can't help but want to resist. As an undead summoned by me, you actually want to go against my will. You underestimate me, a former dark saint. Although the Frostbone Dragon is very powerful, it is still a little insufficient when facing the former dark saint. After struggling for a while, it was eventually forcibly plundered of its consciousness and became a pawn of the dark saint Antonio Waters. At this moment, the Frostbone Dragon had no choice but to obey the orders of the dark saint Antonio Waters. The unwillingness and anger turned into the power of attack, as if to tear everything apart. The powerful frost breath instantly turned the surrounding environment into a world of frost. Everyone, including Yunfan, was affected by the cold breath and became a little slow. It's so cold. Yunfan and Zaya shuddered involuntarily. At this moment, the angry Frostbone Dragon waved his sharp claws at Yunfan and the others. Fortunately, Yunfan's mental power was highly concentrated, and he managed to dodge it safely. However, the sharp claws tore the boulder ground apart. The Frostbone Dragon roared angrily, venting his dissatisfaction and hatred in his heart. Yunfan stood calmly, thinking quickly about how to deal with it. According to the current situation, there is absolutely no chance of winning if he fights hard. He originally wanted to tear the space to teleport to other places, but the space in this place is surprisingly tough, and his space magic cannot be used. Frost breath. The extremely cold ice power, as the Frostbone Dragon opened its huge mouth, sprayed out in an instant. Although Yunfan's space magic was greatly restricted, the flash and the space magic could still be used, but now the distance of using flash is less than 1/3 of the original. But even so, it is still easy to avoid the frost breath of the Frostbone Dragon. However, Zibia was not so lucky. Originally, he thought that Yunfan stood in front of him and could bear the damage for him well. He never thought that Yunfan would flash and hide aside in an instant. The powerful frost power poured down like a torrent. By the time he reacted, it was too late to escape and avoid. The biting cold rushed directly to his head. He hurriedly mobilized the fighting spirit in his body and moved to the side in an instant. Although he avoided the fatal damage of the frost breath, the powerful ice power still froze his left arm. Feeling the numbness from his left hand, Zibia's face was gloomy and terrible. He suddenly moved his fighting spirit to his left hand, trying to break the frozen left arm and restore it to normal. He still underestimated the power of ice, and the ice crystals on his left hand remained the same. Damn it. When the frost breath came again, Zibia had to choose to bear it hard. The powerful ice power made him timid and unable to exert his due strength. Seeing this scene, Ogden Rodney did not panic. He knew that he could not hold back any longer, otherwise the consequences would be really unimaginable. He slowly took out a book with strange tracks. The Book of Magic? Antonio Waters frowned. He never expected that Ogden Rodney actually had a book of magic in his hand. Book of Magic? It was the first time that Yunfan saw this thing. This thing was similar to a magic scroll, but a magic scroll could only record magic below the 8th level, while a magic book could record holy magic. He held the magic book in his palm. As the magic energy poured into it crazily, the magic book suddenly floated in front of Ogden Rodney and turned into flame stars in the sight of everyone. The magic book disappeared, but the strange stars on the magic book were reflected in Ogden Rodney's pupils. 1 magic base, 2 magic bases, 3 magic bases, all the way to 81 magic bases. 81 magic bases, the minimum requirement for 9th level holy magic. Ogden Rodney's fire magic bases seemed to be summoned, and they couldn't wait to connect together. First, it connected into a plane track, which was extremely familiar to Ogden Rodney. It was a low-level magic track model he had used before. However, this process was not the end. What Ogden Rodney released now was by no means as simple as low-level magic. The magic bases were still connected, and while interfering with each other, they showed a second spatial track. The magic bases once again constructed a new model. The magic bases connected into a model, and the magic base models were intertwined with each other. They were wonderfully intertwined into a gorgeous and shocking multi-dimensional figure. The essence of holy magic is endless, becoming a reciprocating cycle. This is the wedge of higher level magic and the condition for the opening of holy magic. 81 magic bases. They completely turned into a magnificent cycle pattern under the call of the Book of Magic. These patterns not only shone in Ogden Rodner's pupils, but also appeared under Ogden Rodner's feet. How could you have such a thing in your hand? Antonio Waters was hesitant to believe it. You know, every magic book is very precious. It requires a saint-level magician to seal all 81 magic bases in the book. Once these 81 magic bases are sealed in the book, he himself will lose 81 magic bases. This is a way of harming oneself and benefiting others. Few saint-level magicians will do this. Stepping on the magic base pattern, huge streams of fire magic element poured into his body frantically. Ogden Rodner's whole body was burning. Ogden Rodney felt that he might explode if he was not careful. Hand over the earth fire. Otherwise, you will often use saint-level magic. I think even you must find it difficult to resist. Chapter 258 Dark Sky. You old man, you underestimate me, don't you? I was a famous dark saint back then. Antonia Waters showed a crazy look on her face. Besides, I don't believe you can use holy magic forcibly without any cost now. In that case, then you can try my method. Holy fire burning god. Ogden Rodney fiercely read out the name of the holy fire magic, feeling that his blood was boiling and burning under such heat. Looking at Antonia Waters proudly, everyone could see that Ogden Rodner's mouth was a little crazy in the flames. I didn't expect this old guy to be so desperate. Although this magic book is only the worst magic book, it is not something this old guy can bear. Even if he solves this old guy has no chance of reaching the holy level. Sakhardan said with a little regret. Why is it so serious? The reason why the magic of the saint level magician is different from that of the ordinary magician is that, after reaching the saint level magician, he already has his own domain, or he begins to use the primary power of the law. His body cannot bear this power at all. If he uses this power forcibly, it will naturally hurt his own origin. So this old guy is not young anymore, and the probability of reaching the saint level is not high. In addition, I'm afraid. Is there no other way? Yunfan still respects Ogden Rodney very much. It may not work for others, but it is very simple for you. Sakhardan smacked his lips and said. With that unknown flame, you can help this old guy rebaptize his body. It is not impossible for him to go further. Let's talk about it later. Yunfan naturally knew the truth, that people's hearts are treacherous, so he did not agree directly. Dark Saint, let me try how much weight you have left now. Ogden Rodney said word by word. In an instant, the blazing flames of Ogden Rodney's body gathered in front of his chest, and the space around him seemed to solidify in an instant. Domain. This is the unique power domain of the Saint rank. Although it is only the prototype of the domain, it already has a lot of power. If you can master it, no one below the Saint rank will pose any threat to you. Sakhardan smiled slightly. Are you so sure that I can do it? Yunfan asked back. You are very special, and many impossible things have happened to you. I really can't think of anything that can stun you. Sakhardan said faintly. Ogden Rodney, what is lingering on his body is not just a ball of fire, but a ball of fire containing the power of rules. Carrying Ogden Rodney's love for his granddaughter, this magic that is about to erupt at any time condensed under Ogden Rodney's roar. The flames wrapped around Ogden Rodney soared into the sky. First, a huge red flame formed around Ogden Rodney, and then a flame burst out. These magic elements gathered in the air to form a giant shape. It was like the arrival of the god of fire. What a frostbone dragon. It turned into ashes under the blow of Ogden Rodney. The majestic flame magic roared, and the frostbone dragon melted directly under this huge flame giant. In a piece of red magic flames, the whole space became fiery red again. Damn it. Antonia Waters roared with a hideous face. The remaining bone wolves that were originally going to pounce on everyone also let out panicked roars. The heat wave alone and the powerful magic fluctuations have frightened them. They began to flee without caring about Antonia Waters' orders. When the huge wave of fire wrapped in destruction flew over, those bone wolves, that did not have time to escape, were also burned to ashes under the flames. Ogden Rodney's magic would not be so powerful at ordinary times, but his current location is very special. The Tomb of the Fire Demigod is the richest in fire element compared to other regions. Releasing fire magic here is equivalent to strengthening fire magic. They hate humans, hate all living things, and they crave blood, which makes them all gather together. Ogden Rodney's 9th level magic completely catches them all, and coupled with the increase in the region, his magic attack range has expanded to the entire 1st level magic tower. Crackle. A pungent smell of burning came. Dark sky. Block it for me. Antonia Waters was surrounded by black fog, which spread all around in an instant under Antonia Waters' control. In midair, flames and black fog intertwined with each other, and it seemed that neither of them would give in to the other. Sizzle. The flames began to burn the black fog. Flying dragon cuts the moon. Dragon raises its head. Cassidy had been waiting for an opportunity to see that Antonia Waters had focused all her energy on Ogden Rodney, so he went all out to give Antonia Waters a fatal blow. Little mouse, do you really think I will ignore you? Antonia Waters stood in the darkness, her eyes passing through the charred wreckage in front of her, and the 1st floor of the demon ceiling tower was in full view. Be careful, Antonia Waters is like a god in the dark sky. He can sense the behavior of anyone who touches the dark sky. Yunfan suddenly thought of something and said loudly, "Little guy, I didn't expect you to know so much. It seems that my idea of getting rid of you first was correct." Antonia Waters said coldly, "Anyway, it's too late for you to say anything now. Do you think you still have a chance to kill me now?" Yunfan said with a slight smile on his face. Flying dragon slashing the moon. Earth dragon slashing method. After missing the first attack, Cassidy slashed out with the sword again, drawing an arc in the air, and a Dalki slash like a crescent moon flew across the sky, instantly slashing a crack in the dark sky, but the crack did not last long, and was shrouded in darkness again. Little guy, don't waste your energy. You can't hurt me with your strength. Swear to be my subordinates obediently, and I will never treat you unfairly. Antonia Waters said again like temptation. It's just that you have cultivated a body of magic element, and you really think you are invincible. Sakhardan said disdainfully. Chapter 259. Eternal immortality does not exist. What is a magic element body? Yunfan was slightly stunned. The so-called magic element body is to abandon one's own flesh and construct a body with magic element. On the surface, this approach can be more in line with the magic element and improve the perception of magic. In fact, this approach is too extreme. Sakhardan said. Besides, can the attack really not hit the magic element? If you look carefully, you will find that every attack will consume a certain amount of his dark magic element. When the dark magic element are completely exhausted, it is the time for him to be destroyed. If I become your subordinate, what benefits can you give me? Berkeley suddenly stopped and stopped attacking. If you become my subordinate, I will teach you how to break through the saint level. I think you have been stuck at the 8th level for a long time. You must know that once you break through the saint level, you will have 1,000 years of life. Antonia Waters said in a low voice. You have a way to break through the saint level. Berkeley's eyes were full of passion, and even Cassidy had an expression of interest. If there is really a simple way, there won't be only a few saint level masters on this continent. Ogden Rodney said with some disdain. How do you, a junior, know my methods? Back then, I dominated the entire continent, and even the demigod level masters had to give me some face. Antonia Waters had a very proud expression. How about it, juniors, be my subordinates? Old man, you are bragging a little bit. Yunfan said with a little disdain. Yunfan, the reason why this old guy told you so much is that he is trying to refine the earth fire. Sakhardan suddenly said. He was actually refining the derived flame, but the information obtained from the original flame showed that the flame could not exist independently for long. This is interesting. Yunfan couldn't help but think evilly. Seniors, this so-called dark saint is just bluffing. If he really has the ability to deal with us, he would have done it long ago. Otherwise, why would he lure us to find the earth fire? Yunfan said slowly. Seniors, you are just too cautious. Be careful. This guy is trying to refine the earth fire. Once he refines the earth fire, I'm afraid that Grandpa Ogden's fire magic will be greatly reduced. It will be very difficult to defeat this monster at that time. Yunfan reminded. Good boy, if it weren't for your reminder, we might have been fooled. After Yunfan's reminder, everyone realized that Antonia Waters had ulterior motives. But we can't kill him at all. I think you seniors must have made a mistake. The current state of the Dark Saint Antonia Waters is not invincible. Every time we attack, the dark magic element in his body are weakening. Once the dark magic element in his body are not enough to support the dark sky, his body will definitely suffer a fatal blow. Sakuden said with a smile. Good boy, I didn't expect you to think of this. Ogden Rodney couldn't help but admire. These days, Ogden Rodney has regarded Yunfan as his junior. He was very happy to see that Yunfan could hit the nail on the head. Do you really think you have found my weakness? Dark Saint Antonia Waters said calmly. Dark Saint Antonia Waters, what are you trying to cover up so anxiously? Yunfan raised the corner of his mouth with a hint of sarcasm. Damn boy, I must grind you to ashes. Dark Saint Antonia Waters stared at Yunfan and said viciously. Dark Saint Antonia Waters, you have said more than once that you want to kill me, right? But I'm still alive and well now. Yunfan looked like he deserved a beating. Dark power, cursed light. There is a saying on earth that extreme happiness leads to sorrow. Yunfan just interpreted the true meaning of this sentence this time. Yunfan did not expect that his mockery would actually attract the cursed light of the Dark Saint Antonia Waters. Cursed light is a very special magic. It does not have a great direct attack power like other attribute magic. Instead, the cursed light is like an attached maggot, torturing the cursed person bit by bit. Cursed light is an 8th level magic, but the success rate is very low. Generally speaking, there is only a 20% success rate, and it will consume its own soul power when used. Soul power is different from mental power. Mental power can be restored after consumption, but the soul cannot be restored, so few people will use this magic. Yunfan never thought that, because of his quick mouth, the Dark Saint Antonia Waters would have such a great resentment towards him, that he would not hesitate to consume his own soul power, to launch the cursed light. What's more terrible is, that this cursed light actually succeeded. Yunfan felt like stealing a chicken, but losing the rice. Oh my god, Yunfan, has your luck run out? With such a low hit rate, you may be hit by the heavy curse light. Sakuden said in disbelief. This guy actually consumed his own soul power to launch the curse light on me? Yunfan said with a sad face. Sakuden, can you feel what the effect of this curse light is? The curse light will occur 3 times in the future, and the effect of each launch of the curse light is different. Some people will instantly exhaust their magic power, some people will lose all their physical strength, and some people will lose control of their magic power. However, some people are lucky enough to break through accidentally, but this possibility is almost zero. In short, the effect of each launch is different. You kids should just pray for good luck. Sakuden said with pity. What the hell? What is the principle? Why do I feel that the effect is so ridiculous? Yunfan said in a daze. Brother Dante, what's wrong with you? Zaya saw that Yunfan looked very strange, and couldn't help asking. I was hit by the curse light. Yunfan explained very depressed. What is the cursed light? Who knows what the hell this thing is? Yunfan, you don't have to be so depressed. Once in the continent of gods, there was a guy who withstood the cursed light, and then he unexpectedly comprehended the power of fate. Who knows? Chapter 260 The war is coming. Sakuden, you are just gloating here. How can I gloat over my misfortune? We are 2 grasshoppers on the same rope. You can't run away, and I can't run away. I believe that you may really create miracles, and comprehend something extraordinary. Forget it, let's talk about these things later. What I care most about now is how to get rid of this guy. Yunfan is a person who has died once, so he will naturally not be as timid as others. Everyone, let's go all out together to avoid more troubles. Cassidy said to everyone, while holding a sharp sword. Even Berkeley, who has always had ulterior motives, couldn't help but nod and agree with Cassidy's statement. Antonia Waters is really weird. Moro fighting skills. Moro crazy slash. Hell raw 10 directions annihilated. Vulcan raw. Cassidy, Berkeley, and Ogden Rodney all showed their own unique skills. The power of the three finally gathered together, and they attacked Antonia Waters without hesitation. The powerful force passed through the heavy dark sky, and the dark power quickly faded. An angry roar came from the dark sky. How could it be like this? I have made plans, and I'm only a little bit away. Gods and spirits, why don't you give me this chance? Antonia Waters roared unwillingly. As the dark sky disappeared, he felt his own power and soul disappearing bit by bit. That is really as Dante expected. Once the dark power is exhausted, Antonia Waters will completely disappear from this world. Berkeley said secretly. Antonia Waters, how about we make a deal? At the last moment, Antonia Waters' dark power was almost gone, and Berkeley suddenly spoke. What? Everyone present couldn't help but be stunned. I will let you go now. What do you think of my men? Berkeley continued. What everyone didn't expect was that Berkeley had just finished speaking when he slashed Cassidy with a sword. Cassidy's body was directly knocked out, hit the wall, and fell to the ground. For a moment, he didn't know whether he was dead or alive. This change was so big that even Antonia Waters was a little overwhelmed and didn't know what was going on. Although Yunfan didn't believe Berkeley's intention from the beginning, he didn't expect him to do it as soon as he said it. Berkeley, what exactly do you want to do? Ogden Rodney's face was ugly, as if he was about to squeeze out water. What do I want to do? Ogden, don't you see it now? Haven't you been on guard against me since the beginning of our cooperation? Are you surprised by what I'm doing now? Berkeley asked with a wicked smile. To be honest, if it weren't for the fact that your magic power was almost exhausted, I really wouldn't dare to take this opportunity to make a move. In the next life, you must remember to keep 3 points in your hands at all times. What a good show. I didn't expect you to start fighting among yourselves. Berkeley's sudden betrayal gave Antonia Waters a chance to breathe. He looked at the people in front of him with interest. Antonia Waters, what do you think of my proposal? Berkeley's eyes turned to Antonia Waters again. Little guy, your idea is not bad, and I really appreciate your unscrupulous approach. Antonia Waters said with a wicked smile, but I, an old man, don't have the habit of being someone else's younger brother. Berkeley, you are courting disaster by doing this, do you know that? Ogden Rodney said viciously. I'm just asking for trouble. How come I don't think so? Now I'm the only one who has the last laugh? Berkeley said leisurely. I'm a well-known figure like Ogden Rodney. I didn't expect that I would be tricked by you in the end. Ogden Rodney said with a wry smile. How about you promise me to release those two juniors? They will definitely not pose any threat to you. Ogden Rodney looked in the direction of Yunfan and Zaya. Although I think so, I don't think your suggestion is good. Cutting the grass and eradicating the roots has always been my principle of doing things. Eliminate all problems in the bud. Berkeley showed a trace of regret on his face. Berkeley said while walking towards Yunfan, don't you feel honored to die in my hands? I'm honored, you big-headed ghost. Yunfan showed a crazy look on his face. When Berkeley was about to come in front of him, he suddenly took out a pair of magic scrolls from the space ring, without even looking at them, and threw them directly at Berkeley. The magic scroll broke apart in midair, and turned into a giant white dragon, tearing towards Lee. Although Berkeley had expected that Yunfan would never sit still and wait for death, he did not expect that Yunfan actually had an 8th level magic scroll light holy dragon in his hand. You have to know that this is the only 8th level magic scroll he got from the Cardinal. Even the Cardinal only has one, which shows how precious this 8th level magic scroll is. Light holy dragon. How can you have an 8th level magic scroll? And it's a light scroll. Do you have any secret relationship with the Holy See? Berkeley asked in horror until the claws of the light holy dragon grabbed his chest. However, Berkeley knew that he had miscalculated this time. He felt that his life was slipping away bit by bit, until Berkeley fell to the ground forever. His face was still incredulous. All these changes were too great, and Ogden Rodney and Antonia Waters seemed to be unable to react for a while. I didn't expect you to be such a wild card. It seems that my initial plan to get rid of you was correct. But do you think you can win? Haha, haha. Antonia Waters laughed loudly. Although you already know a lot of my secrets, you forgot that I was once a demigod's apprentice. Don't you just want to say that you have obtained the earth fire and have completely refined it? Yunfan suddenly asked. What? You actually know that I have refined the earth fire? Chapter 261 Speculation. Knowing that you have refined the earth fire, is there anything surprising? Yunfan said seriously. Haha. You actually already know that I have refined the earth fire. You should have known that I have solved my own problems. It's not too late to kneel down and beg for mercy now. I don't know if I will show mercy. Antonia Waters didn't want to kill Yunfan so quickly. Instead, she looked at him with interest, as if she wanted to tease him. Do you really think you have already won? There is a saying on the mainland that no one knows the final outcome without laughing to the end. Yunfan smiled slightly, but his heart was not like him. His expression was so calm. Yunfan kept praying in the depths of his heart. I hope my guess is right, otherwise this time it will be really miserable. You little devil really makes me hate you, you know? Back then, there was a little devil like you among the master's apprentices. No matter what he did, he felt that he had mastered everything. In the end, the master only gave him the secret of becoming a god. Antonia Waters seemed to think of something unhappy in the past and roared with a hideous face. Is that why you finally chose to betray your master? Yunfan said calmly, because he now had a guess. Who are you? How did you know? Antonia Waters looked at him warily after hearing Yunfan's words. It really doesn't matter who I am. If it doesn't matter, then go to hell. The dark sky curtain had been exhausted, and Antonia Waters himself did not have much magic power. His figure appeared in front of everyone again, and a faint flame suddenly appeared in his hand. You can die in the underground fire, and your death in this life is not unfair. Fuck you. What do you mean by dying in the underground fire? I will not be wronged in my life. Yunfan couldn't help cursing in his heart. Are you sure that what you have in your hand is underground fire? Yunfan looked at Antonia Waters with a strange expression. You are an ignorant guy. You have never seen underground fire in your life. Antonia Waters had a condescending expression. It seems that Antonia Waters only has a vague understanding of his master's affairs. She doesn't know that his master only has a ball of origin fire in his hand, and that the fire is not controlled by his master. Die. Antonia Waters waved her hand, and the small red flame flew up and flew directly towards Yunfan. Dante, get out of the way quickly. Once the earth fire touches you, you will be burned to ashes. Ogden Rodney had exhausted his magic power at this moment and collapsed to the ground. Although he wanted to help Yunfan, he could not do anything. Grandpa Ogden, don't worry. I know what to do. While Ogden Rodney and Antonia Waters were stunned, Yunfan grabbed the red flame in his hand, and the red flame in his hand was like an obedient child. What is going on? What did you do to my earth fire? Antonia Waters' face was full of disbelief. I've asked you just now, is this flame really underground fire? Yunfan said with a wicked smile. Tell me what's going on. Antonia Waters' face was terribly gloomy. What's going on? Haven't you guessed it? From the beginning, your master didn't get underground fire. It can't be underground fire. What is it? Antonia Waters asked loudly. It's getting late. I should send you on your way. Yunfan said as he threw the small flame in his hand towards Antonia Waters. The small flame instantly turned into a raging fire, burning Antonia Waters to ashes. In the end, the flame also extinguished because it had exhausted its last strength, and everything seemed to return to the original calm. Of the many people who originally explored the tomb of the demigod, only Yunfan, Zaya, and Ogden Rodney were left in the end. It's over. Everything is over. I thought I could find the underground fire here, but I didn't expect that everything would be in vain in the end. Ogden Rodney looked at Zaya with apology and said, it's all because of Grandpa's inability. There is no way to cure your illness. Grandpa, please don't say that. If it weren't for you, I would have died long ago. I'm already satisfied to live so many more years. Zaya said with a smile. Sister Zaya, Grandpa Ogden, do you two believe me? If you two believe me, I will cure Sister Zaya's illness. Yunfan said. Without the underground fire, Zaya's illness can't be cured at all. Although Ogden Rodney was very grateful to Ji Yunfan, he couldn't help shaking his head. Maybe I can create a miracle, Ji Yunfan said half jokingly. Grandpa, since there is no other way, how about we believe Brother Dan once? Zaya said with a smile. Do you really have a way to cure Zaya's illness? If you really cure the little girl's illness, I can also join you. Ogden Rodney looked at Ji Yunfan very seriously and said, although I'm not absolutely sure, but according to what you said, as long as we find the underground fire, we can cure the little girl Zaya's illness. Although my flame is not underground fire, it should be not bad. Ji Yunfan said as he summoned the origin flame, but he was afraid that it would be too shocking, so he kept the origin flame red and did not let it transform in multiple colors. Since completely conquering this ball of origin fire, the color of the origin fire has been under Ji Yunfan's control. Feeling the heat from the origin flame, Ogden Rodney thought of the conversation between Ji Yunfan and Antonia Waters just now. He looked at Ji Yunfan meaningfully, and at this moment he had great confidence. I believe you can definitely cure Zaya. Grandpa Ogden, let's not think too much about it now. Finding a way to get out is the real thing, Ji Yunfan said. Yes, Grandpa's environment task here is very annoying. Let's find a way to leave here quickly. Zaya also said, this is the first floor of the demon ceiling tower. We entered from here at the beginning. There must be a door out here. Ji Yunfan guessed. Let's look carefully, maybe we can find the mechanism to get out. Chapter 262 Samario Star Region. Dante, asking you to come with us this time is the most correct decision I have made. Ogden Rodney nodded slightly and said, Grandpa, all this is my credit, okay? If I hadn't asked you to let Brother Dan join, would you agree to let him join? But this genius girl is amazing. Zaya asked for credit. Okay. It's all my Zaya's credit. Ogden Rodney looked at his granddaughter lovingly. The crisis has passed, and the three of them couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Ogden Rodney decided to restore his strength first, and then consider other problems. Brother Dante, look at the strange pattern here. Zaya said to a strange pattern like stars in the center of the ceiling demon tower. This seems to be a star map. Sakuden suddenly said. Star map? Ji Yunfan repeated involuntarily. Brother Dante, what is this star map? Zaya asked curiously. In fact, there are countless continents outside the Kuska continent, and they exist above the starry sky. Ji Yunfan explained. Oh my god, does that mean that every star in the sky represents a continent? Then there are too many continents in the world. How many people are there in the whole world? Zaya couldn't help but exclaimed. Where did you hear this? At some point, Ogden Rodney had stopped meditating and walked over from behind Ji Yunfan. Grandpa Ogden, how is your strength recovering? Ji Yunfan did not answer Ogden Rodney directly, but asked. It has recovered 70% to 80%. Ogden Rodney looked at Ji Yunfan intently. Are all the things you just said true? Yes, Grandpa Ogden, there are some things that you may know better than me. There are actually two kinds of stars in the sky. One is the stars that are formed naturally, and the other is the kingdom of God that the gods said they supported when they became gods. Ji Yunfan said in a deep voice. I have indeed seen what you said in some ancient books, but now there is not even a god in the entire continent, and there is no one to prove whether these are true or false. Ogden Rodney shook his head slightly and said. Because the road to becoming a god in Kuska continent has been banned. If you want to become a god, the first way is to leave this continent, and the second way is to lift the seal on the entire continent. Ji Yunfan said. Why do you tell me so much? Ogden Rodney looked at Ji Yunfan meaningfully and said. Grandpa Ogden, don't you want to go to the continent outside Kuska continent to take a look? Besides, don't you want to become a real god and have endless life? Ji Yunfan suddenly said. If I say I don't want to become a god, it's a lie, but I have no hope. Ogden Rodney shook his head and said lightly. Grandpa Ogden, are you saying that using the magic book has damaged the origin? Ji Yunfan asked. I didn't expect you to know so much. That's right, since you already know, I won't hide anything. Using the magic book to gain powerful strength has a price. The damage to my origin makes me unable to reach the saint level forever. Moreover, every time I use magic that exceeds my own strength, it will cause damage to my own origin. Ogden Rodney took a deep breath. He didn't want to say these things. He really didn't want to make his granddaughter Zaya sad. Grandpa, is what you said true? If it weren't for me, you wouldn't have to do this. Zaya said a little sadly. Little girl, this is none of your business. If there was no magic book, maybe I would have lost my life long ago. Ogden Rodney comforted. Besides, how many people in the world are absolutely sure to break through to the saint level? To be honest, the only thing I can't let go of now is you, little girl. Tell me, if one day I pass away, what will you do? Grandpa, you must be scaring me, right? You are in such good health now, how could you leave me? The little girl Zaya's eyes were already a little red. Zaya girl, don't worry. I will not die before I solve your problem. Ogden Rodney said solemnly. Grandpa, don't always talk about death. Zaya said aggrievedly. If I have a way to cure your origin and help you break through to the saint level, Grandpa Ogden, can you be my strong backing? Yunfan said slowly. How is this possible? I have never heard of someone who hurts his origin being able to break through to the saint level. You know, the first thing to break through to the saint level is that the origin is round and flawless. Ogden Rodney didn't believe it at all. Grandpa Ogden, I have already said it as if, and I'm not absolutely sure that I can cure you. Yunfan said softly. Okay, I promise you. Ogden Rodney smiled and shook his head, seemingly not believing what Yunfan said at all. If I really die one day, Zaya will be handed over to you to take care of. Grandpa Ogden, what are you talking about? Didn't I tell you? I have a way to cure your origin, so you just be my backer. Yunfan said half jokingly. I believe you, can't I? But don't let me wait for that day too long. Ogden Rodney said somewhat insincerely, and he didn't believe everything Yunfan said. Second, do you know where the star map is from? Yunfan asked in his heart. If I'm not mistaken, this should be the star map of the Sumerio starfield. In the legend a long time ago, the origin of the continent of the gods was here. Sakadin said. Didn't you tell me that the Kuska continent was the origin of the continent of the gods? Yunfan said unhappily. Anyway, all of this is just a legend, and there are many examples of the legend about the place of origin. The ancient gods who know the truth will never mention it to other people. It seems that there is some mystery in this place. Sakadin said. Anyway, I think it is very likely that the Kuska continent is the place of origin of the continent of the gods. And I have seen many incredible things here. With this thing, can I leave this continent? Go to the boundless starry sky to see. Chapter 263 The Origin of the Demon Ceiling Tower. It just means that you have the key to leave the continent. If you want to leave the continent by your own ability, you must reach the realm of demigod or above. Sakadin said. You mean, is there any other way to leave the continent? Yunfan asked curiously. In this world, there is a magic array called the star teleportation array. As long as you can find the complete star teleportation array, it is not impossible to leave this continent. Sakadin said. In fact, I don't recommend you to take this path. I suggest you become a god in this world. There are actually many ways to form a kingdom of God. The first and most common method is to use a continent as the kingdom of God. In fact, a continent can be used as the kingdom of many gods. It's just that the resources on the continent are limited, and there will be competition among the gods. The gods who become gods in this way will have limited achievements, unless there is an independent continent as the kingdom of God. The second method is to first establish your own beliefs, and then create a continent to carry the road into the endless void. The kingdom of God established in this way has absolute control over the kingdom of God, and everything in the entire kingdom of God belongs to him. The better the life of the entire kingdom of God develops, the stronger its strength will be, and the higher the rank of the gods will be. So, if I choose the second method to create my own kingdom of God, I will have a very high potential. But why did you choose to let me create the kingdom of God in the first way? Yunfan asked puzzledly. You know, Sakadin and himself are now two grasshoppers on the same rope, and neither can escape from the other. Didn't I just tell you? There is no god on the entire continent. If you can become the only god on the continent, and make the entire continent your only kingdom of God, your potential is endless. If the Kuska continent is really the place of origin, it is absolutely extraordinary to achieve a god here. you may really reach the realm of the god of creation. Sakadin explained, and if you can become the master of the continent, everyone who achieves a god, by relying on this continent will be under your control, and be considered your subordinates. If you say so, this is really a good choice, but the road to becoming a god on this continent has been banned. Even if I have great ability, I'm afraid I can't break through this ban. Yunfan couldn't help shaking his head. As long as you can find the origin of this continent, you can reopen the path to becoming a god in this world. I'm not sure if I can let you take this path when nothing else happens, but when you get that strange flame, I think if there is only one person in the world who can embark on this path, it must be you, because I feel the breath of the origin of the continent in that flame. Maybe you can rely on that flame to become the master of this continent. It seems too early to think about these things now. Yunfan, boy, there is indeed something wrong with these star maps. I have seen the star maps of this place before, but the positions of the stars are not static. The master of the continent can actually be called the Lord of the Stars. As long as the Lord of the Stars allows, he can change the positions of the stars in the vast void. Maybe the star map is an earlier star map. Sakadin said slowly. Yunfan ignored Sakadin, but squatted down and touched the stars on the star map with his hands. However, what Yunfan didn't expect was that when his hand touched the star in the center of the star map, he felt that the golden card in the deep sea first trembled violently and then released a strange energy, which was transmitted from his hand. Several rays of light suddenly burst out from the star map. A piece of information that did not belong to the original suddenly appeared in his mind. Through this information, Yunfan knew that this magic tower was originally a divine weapon. With this artifact, the passage to other stars can be opened, but if you want to pass through, you must reach the demigod level. The golden card that only exists in his mind now is the key to opening the star channel. And no matter where you are, anyone with a golden card can be teleported to the first floor of the magic tower through the golden card. And if you want to completely let the magic tower master your own strength must at least reach the demigod level. All this is too far away for Yunfan. However, Yunfan knew that from then on, he had the safest protection on the road. This was like the teleportation resurrection point set in the game. Although it did not have the ability to resurrect, it could also allow him to have an excellent shelter in a critical moment. Although Yunfan could now directly control the demon ceiling tower with his mental power and teleport them away, it would be too shocking to do so. He still followed the information transmitted by the golden card and opened the door of the demon ceiling tower by moving the position of the stars. Finally, we are about to leave this terrifying place. Zaya shouted excitedly as he looked at the opened door. After coming out of the tomb of the demigod, it was already 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Yunfan and his team returned along the original route, but when they were halfway, it was already bright. When they came to the place where they were originally stationed according to their memory, they found that it had been destroyed beyond recognition. It seemed that many monsters appeared after they left. Yunfan suddenly paid attention to the surroundings and found that the charcoal ash traces on the place where the bonfire was stored before were clearly not from last night, but from several days later. There is no concept of time in the tomb of the demigods, and I don't know how long we have been in it at once. But to be honest, life is really fragile. There were so many people when we went there, but we didn't expect to come back with only 3 of us. After several days of rushing on the road, Yunfan and his friends were already a little tired. They shuttled through the rugged roads in the forest. During the day, they were very fast, like a monster chasing prey. In the evening, Yunfan and Zaya came to a place full of rocks. This was a place where Yunfan and his group had camped once. Before Yunfan and Zaya got close to this place, the sound of golden swords clashing had come from a distance. Yunfan was slightly surprised. He didn't expect that such a person would encounter a crowd here. Thinking of this, Yunfan couldn't help but speed up a little, wanting to see what happened over there. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 264. Encountering the Orc Wolf Riders again. On the way, many Orc Wolf Riders with oily green skin, holding knives, forks, sticks, and tall and ferocious appearances constantly attacked humans. Orc Wolf Riders are plunderers, and have always been attacked by other races including the Orcs. In the forests of the mainland, Orc Wolf Riders are terrible robbers. They are not only strictly disciplined, but also have high human wisdom. Yunfan and others moved towards the direction where the sound of fighting came from. Before the three of them approached, they had already attracted the attention of the Orc Wolf Riders. Some of the Orc Wolf Riders holding spears in their hands actually knew the technique of long-range throwing, and whistled and threw at Yunfan and the other three. Yunfan's facial features were extremely sensitive while running fast. After moving his ears, his body changed direction repeatedly and easily avoided the throwing of the spears. Zaire and Ogden Rodney were different. They were just simple magicians. If they only relied on speed to dodge, it would be difficult to keep up with the spears thrown by the Wolf Riders, so they quickly deployed magic shields in front of them. A group of people in front had been killed and wounded by the charge of the werewolf cavalry. Everyone relies on their parents at home and friends outside. We hope that you three can help us. We will definitely reward you handsomely. One of the leaders of the group of people who were fighting with the Orc cavalry loudly asked Yunfan and his friends for help. The Orc Wolf Riders are synonymous with cruelty and tyranny. They are rampant in the forest. Although Yunfan, Zaire and the other three were just passing by, they were undoubtedly ready meals in the eyes of the Orc Wolf Riders. Several Orc Wolf Riders, holding huge axes in their hands, shouted loudly and rushed towards Yunfan and his friends from the side. But before they could get close to Yunfan had already flexibly passed by them quickly, and the shadow dagger suddenly shot out, stabbing the Orc Wolf Riders mount to death in one go, and continued to run to the center of the battle. Zaire, since Ogden has encountered the Orc Wolf Riders, they will definitely not let us go given their ferocity. I'll go and take a look. As Yunfan's strength increased, he no longer hid some things. After running for dozens of seconds, Yunfan finally came to the center of the battle. He saw a group of more than a dozen people holding long swords, resisting the Orc Wolf Riders. The clothes of these dozen people obviously belonged to a mercenary group, and most of them were seriously injured. There were dozens of Orc Wolf Riders surrounding them. The warriors in the front were the Orc Wolf Riders. The dozen or so Orc Wolf Riders throwers behind them kept throwing spears and javelins. The last 7 Orc Wolf Riders sacrificed, releasing simple begging magic and the fire of the soul that increased the hardness of the flesh to increase the physical strength of those Orc Wolf Riders. Obviously, the Orc Wolf Riders they encountered this time were different from the Orc Wolf Riders they had encountered before. The Orc Wolf Riders they encountered this time were more complete in variety, and their combat effectiveness was even stronger under the division of labor and cooperation. Judging from the situation, the battle has been going on for a while. The dozen or so human mercenaries are quite capable, but unfortunately the number of Orc Wolf Riders is larger, and there are also Orc Wolf Rider throwers and priests who can throw long-range weapons. These three combinations, combined with the advantage in numbers, have clearly gained an absolute upper hand against these mercenaries. Behind the mercenaries, a short and fat old man with a face full of fat cursed loudly, and his 2 small green bean-like eyes kept turning, as if looking for a way to escape. Friend, help me stop these Orc Wolf Riders quickly, and I will definitely give you a good reward. The short and fat old man saw Yunfan's eyes and couldn't help but make a promise loudly. I don't know why, when Yunfan saw the fat man's appearance, his first impression of this fat man was very bad, which made him feel very uncomfortable. However, these Orc Wolf Riders have already regarded Yunfan and his men as their food. The Orc Wolf Riders in front, who are particularly sturdy, have already rushed towards Yunfan on giant wolves with huge battle axes in hand, and several sharp spears are thrown at them. Human, meat, delicious, food, cunning and evil race, kill him. The Orc Wolf Rider priests on the periphery gave unclear orders to the Orc Wolf Riders in action. After hearing the priest's order, the Orc Wolf Riders no longer hesitated and opened fire directly at Yunfan. The Orc Wolf Rider priests have a very high status in the Orc Wolf Rider team and are considered leaders because it is said among the Orc Wolf Riders that only the Orc Wolf Rider priests can communicate with the Orc Wolf Riders gods, the Orc Rider gods. Damn, my buddy hasn't even killed you yet and you've already regarded my buddy as food. Isn't this courting death? Exclamation mark. Yunfan believes that he is not a good person, but not a bad person either. Yunfan was very angry at the moment. He had just dodged several giant axes and spears, and saw these Orc Wolf Riders rushing towards him again, obviously not intending to let him go. Grabbing a spear stuck in the ground next to him, Yunfan suddenly lifted it with force, and held the spear in his hand. Before these Orc Wolf Riders could get close to him, Yunfan had already thrown the spear in his hand. The spear in his hand was as fast as lightning in the void. With a light buff, the spear pierced directly into the chest of the first Orc Wolf Rider, and pierced the next Orc Wolf Rider who was close to him to the ground like a candied horse. The two Orc Wolf Riders only had time to let out 2 screams before they were pierced through the chest by the spear and died instantly. Yunfan casually picked up a spear from the side and shouted, "If I don't show my power, you really think I'm a sick cat?" After coming to the mainland, Yunfan has experienced a lot of killings. When killing beasts like the Orc Wolf Riders, Yunfan is not timid at all, and there is a sense of inexplicable excitement. For these extremely vicious Orc Wolf Riders, Yunfan knows that mercy will not work at all, and only brutal killing can intimidate them. Cowardice and timidity will make them more unscrupulous, so this time Yunfan's attack is extremely fierce, and he directly faces them with violent killing. Sure enough, when Yunfan's fierce means came out, the Orc Wolf Riders showed a panic expression on their faces, and timidly retreated several steps. Even the Orc Wolf Rider priest looked at Yunfan with some fear, and a hesitant expression appeared on his face. "Human, I will let you go. How about you stop hurting my people now?" The intelligence of the Orc Wolf Rider priest is much higher than that of ordinary Orc Wolf Riders. He has already felt the threat from Yunfan, so he does not want to fight Yunfan head on. Chapter 265 Transaction. It's really interesting. When did the Orc Wolf Riders become so friendly? Yunfan couldn't help shaking his head. "Hero, please save me. As long as you save me, our Steven family will never treat you unfairly." At this moment, the short and fat old man who was blocked by the mercenaries suddenly shouted excitedly, and his expression was fiery when he looked at Yunfan. He felt very lucky to meet a great master like Yunfan here. "Are you from the Steven family?" Yunfan couldn't help frowning. He never thought that he would meet a member of the Steven family here. "Yes, I'm Marissa Steven, a member of the famous Steven family in the Empire. As long as the little brother can save me, I believe the Steven family will definitely repay you well," the fat old man said proudly. Not interested. Yunfan flatly refused, and after a cold shout, he planned to leave here. In fact, the short and fat man did not intend to give Yunfan any benefits, but just wanted to trick him into helping him solve the problem at hand. Once these Orc Wolf Riders were solved, he planned to deny his responsibility. When the short and fat man saw Yunfan was about to leave, he was immediately shocked, and hurriedly promised loudly, "Brave hero, if you can rescue me, I'm willing to pay a generous reward and guarantee that you will be satisfied." After saying this, Yunfan, who had already walked a few steps, suddenly stopped, turned around and looked at the fat man with a smile, and said, "Honorable Mr. Steven, how much reward are you prepared to pay?" The short and fat man was stunned, then hesitated for a moment, gritted his teeth, and stomped his feet, and said loudly, 50,000 gold coins. But his current performance was deliberately pretended, just to let Yunfan take action now. After solving the problem at hand, he was ready to oppress Yunfan in the name of the Steven family. Yunfan smiled slightly, and didn't seem to care at all. 50,000 gold coins are too little, not enough to fill my teeth. At least 18 million will make me take action. What? Why don't you rob 18 million? Although the short and fat man didn't want to pay Yunfan, he was still shocked by Yunfan's lion mouth. The Steven family is rich and powerful, how dare I rob? Besides, does the Steven family care about 18 million? Yunfan said with a smile. You are right. Our Steven family is rich and powerful, so it is impossible for us to take 18 million seriously, but you are really too mean. The short and fat man didn't want to offend Ji Yunfan at this moment. Although he was furious, he still smiled. 10 million is not acceptable. Ji Yunfan said firmly. How about 1 million? The short and fat man said with some gritted teeth. Ji Yunfan raised the corner of his mouth slightly, revealing a hint of sarcasm, and then turned to leave. Seeing that Ji Yunfan was about to leave, the short and fat man was very anxious and shouted loudly, at most 2 million. Ji Yunfan did not even turn his head, and continued to walk forward. 3 million, 3.5 million, 4 million, 4.5 million. Ji Yunfan's body suddenly stopped, and suddenly turned back and said, okay, let me take a loss, and make friends. 5 million can't be less. Oh my god, 5 million gold coins. This guy is simply a vampire. Wait until you solve this problem. I will definitely take the 5 million back. It's a dream to cheat 5 million from me. The short and fat man muttered in his heart, the robbery has come to the hands of my Steven family. It really doesn't know whether to live or die. Pay a deposit of 1 million first. Ji Yunfan said with a smile. What? You actually want me to pay a deposit of 1 million first? The short and fat man couldn't help but said loudly, hero, your approach seems to be a bit too much. Do you think it's a bit too much? If so, then you can fend for yourself. Ji Yunfan said lightly. Everyone, don't be like this. Isn't it enough for me to promise you? I'll give you the 1 million deposit. The fat man gritted his teeth and said, while taking out a gold coin savings card from the space ring and throwing it directly at Ji Yunfan. Ji Yunfan came to the side of the short and fat man and realized that among the dozen mercenaries who blocked the fat man behind him, the most powerful ones were 2 high-level warriors of the 4th level, followed by 6 intermediate warriors, plus some junior warriors. All of these people were scarred, and several intermediate warriors were the most seriously injured. They have almost lost their combat effectiveness. Although the high-level warriors can save the short and fat man's life, they are also unable to kill these orc wolf riders. Ji Yunfan's current strength did not take these orc wolf riders seriously, nor did he regard the people around the short fat man as a threat to himself. He thought from the beginning that this fat man would never pay the bill. How could he not know that the short fat man was plotting to harm him? Mr. Steven, we are the ones who protect you. The low-level warrior with a bloody hole in his ribs still gushing blood said to the short fat man anxiously when he saw Ji Yunfan's figure. The current situation is very clear. You can no longer provide me with effective protection. I have paid half of the gold coins to your mercenary group before, but now we must introduce foreign aid first. Although Steven said helplessly on the surface, only Ji Yunfan noticed the cruel light hidden in his eyes. The short and fat man had a warm smile on his face and said to Ji Yunfan, brave hero, help us get rid of these orc wolf riders. At this time, the orc wolf rider priest saw that Ji Yunfan did not seem to be planning to leave and finally shouted angrily, kill them all. The orc rider god will definitely bless us. As soon as the orc wolf rider priest finished speaking, the orc wolf riders who were a little scared and did not want to attack Ji Yunfan just now raised their weapons and spoke strange languages and strode towards Ji Yunfan. At this moment, no one noticed the cold light flashing in the short and fat man's eyes. He imagined that these orc wolf riders and Ji Yunfan would die together, and even if they did not die together, they would both suffer losses. Young hero, everything depends on you. In the short and fat man's view, the reason why Ji Yunfan was able to kill these orc wolf riders was not because of his own strength, but because of the restraint of others. These orc wolf riders could not play their original level at all. Chapter 266 Crazy Killing. Ji Yunfan looked at the short and fat man meaningfully, and the corners of his mouth could not help but curl up to reveal a hint of mocking smile. For some reason, seeing Ji Yunfan's expression, the short and fat man's heart could not help but jump, feeling that something bad was going to happen. He hurriedly shook his head, drove away this bad feeling, and comforted himself, saying, this kid's strength is just like this. I still have several high-level warriors here. It's a foregone conclusion that I want to deal with this kid. Okay, you protect Mr. Steven. The other orc wolf riders are handed over to me. If anything goes wrong, don't blame me. Ji Yunfan smiled evilly and ordered, grabbed a spear beside him, and suddenly rushed towards the Orc Wolf Rider priest. The Orc Wolf Rider priest saw this situation and screamed loudly. After hearing the strange cry of the Orc Wolf Rider priest, the other Orc Wolf Riders hurriedly moved one by one and directly blocked in front of the Orc Wolf Rider priest, and then the spears and giant axes were thrown at Ji Yunfan. Although facing several Orc Wolf Riders, Ji Yunfan now seemed very relaxed. He changed directions flexibly and easily dodged several spears and giant axes. When the Orc Wolf Riders rushed to Ji Yunfan's side, Ji Yunfan, who had been waiting there, rushed over with a spear in his hand. He clenched the spear in his hand and lifted it up. The spear directly pierced an Orc Wolf Rider. A blood flower bloomed on the chest of the Orc Wolf Rider. The Orc Wolf Rider trembled and fell backwards. At this time, the priest behind him chanted the mind-shaking magic. Ji Yunfan felt his head suddenly sink. Ji Yunfan immediately became alert. If it was just an ordinary magician, he would probably be in trouble after being hit by the mind-shaking magic. Fortunately, Ji Yunfan himself had a very high mental strength and had experienced several times of being possessed. Ji Yunfan felt that his mind was in a daze. He was frightened and broke out in a cold sweat. It was just a little bit away. The giant axe of one of the Orc Wolf Riders was only a dozen centimeters away from his head. It was fast, and Ji Yunfan didn't care about his dignity and rolled to the side. The giant axe of the Orc Wolf Rider hit nothing. The Orc Wolf Rider looked at Ji Yunfan in disbelief. He had never thought that someone could wake up from the spiritual shock magic of the sacrifice. At this time, the priest of another Orc Wolf Rider mumbled a spell. As a human, Ji Yunfan and his friends naturally didn't know what the spell meant, but the other Orc Wolf Riders all looked pious. What the hell is this? Ji Yunfan couldn't help but muttered softly. Sacrifice amplification. Only a few priests among the orcs have this ability, and this ability is regarded as a gift from the gods by the orcs. The Orc Wolf Rider that was knocked down by Ji Yunfan stood up again, and together with other Orc Wolf Riders, they became more brutal and ferocious in a strange green light. Moreover, their hair was like a layer of iron sheet, shining with a green luster. Then their speed and strength were greatly improved. Hurry up, take me away from here. How could there be a high-level Orc Wolf Rider priest here? The short fat man shouted in panic. Even Ji Yunfan's face sank slightly, but he turned a deaf ear to the short fat man's shouting. He pulled out a spear from the ground again, and threw it out, piercing the orc who stood up staggeringly through the chest, and nailing him to the ground. Then he took out the shadow dagger from the space ring, and ran towards the direction of the Orc Wolf Rider priest. When the Orc Wolf Rider priest saw Ji Yunfan running towards him, his face suddenly became very ugly. He screamed loudly, as if ordering other Orc Wolf Riders to help him resist. However, Ji Yunfan's speed was too fast. He didn't wait for other Orc Wolf Riders to come to support him, and his throat was cut in an instant. After cutting the throat of the Orc Wolf Rider priest, Ji Yunfan still refused to give up. He turned and went to another priest. The other priest was also unable to dodge, and was stabbed to death on the spot by the shadow dagger. At this time, Ji Yunfan casually pulled out a spear and began to resist the Orc Wolf Rider who had already arrived in front of him. The Orc Wolf Rider who was subjected to the sacrifice magic had all his body functions improved, but there was still a big gap for Ji Yunfan, whose King Di Dao Ki had now reached the 5th level. Ji Yunfan's body flexibility and strength were far beyond the same level. During this process, many of these Orc Wolf Riders were directly knocked to the ground by Ji Yunfan, and even the weapons in their hands were shaken away. These Orc Wolf Riders have begun to doubt whether they are orcs or the guy in front of them is an orc. Orcs have always been synonymous with powerful strength. In the competition of strength of warriors of the same level, orcs are always much stronger than ordinary humans. However, this does not apply to Ji Yunfan. Now these Orc Wolf Riders are already a little terrified. They have lost the courage to fight with Ji Yunfan. They will also pull out the javelins and spears stuck in the ground, blocking the way, and entangled with Ji Yunfan. Ji Yunfan is 1 against 4. Although he dodges very quickly and cannot completely remove all the damage, there are almost no attacks that really cause him harm. Kill him, together. The Orc Wolf Riders saw Ji Yunfan kill several Orc Wolf Riders in a row, and they all roared angrily. He pulled out the spear that was inserted into the chest of the Orc Wolf Rider, and blood spurted out, spraying all over Ji Yunfan. At this time, Ji Yunfan was covered with blood. His originally handsome face had become ferocious and cold. After being sprayed with blood, he looked more like the reincarnation of the god of death. The short and fat Stephen was stunned by Ji Yunfan's appearance at this moment. He trembled involuntarily and said in fear, "Ashura. This guy is simply the reincarnation of Shura." Ji Yunfan naturally didn't know that the reason why he was so violent at this moment was inseparable from the Shura fighting spirit he had practiced. Now, Ji Yunfan was fighting against 7 alone. Although it didn't seem particularly difficult, it was basically impossible to eliminate all the Orc Wolf Riders. At the same time, more Orc Wolf Riders rushed towards him. Chapter 267 Ambition. At this moment, Ji Yunfan's mind moved, and more than a dozen skeleton warriors were summoned from the small world of the undead. Oh my god, this bastard is actually a magician. The short and fat man was stunned when he saw Ji Yunfan actually started to use magic. He looked at Ji Yunfan with a blank and strange face, and said in a somewhat foolish way, "Alloy skeleton warrior, why do I always feel so familiar? It seems that I have heard of it somewhere. Oh my god. He is actually that guy, Dante, the enemy of the Stephen family." The short and fat man's face turned pale. As a member of the Stephen family, many people like to pay attention to some forces that are hostile to their family. The short and fat man in the distance began to pray in his heart, "Orc Wolf Riders, you must fight for your dignity and kill Dante, the damn guy." A dozen alloy skeleton warriors holding alloy bone knives suddenly rushed towards these Orc Wolf Riders. When these Orc Wolf Riders first saw the skeleton warriors, they did not react at all. In their impression, skeleton warriors were the lowest level of undead that they could bully. They never thought that Ji Yunfan's skeleton warriors actually had such powerful strength. Wow, haha, it turns out that it's just skeleton warriors. Scared, I jumped. Kill them. The Orc Wolf Rider priest was shocked and found that the ones who appeared in front of them were just the lowest level of undead. He immediately laughed and shouted, commanding other Orc Wolf Riders to rush over with these skeleton warriors. Ji Yunfan's eyes were cold, and the corners of his mouth were also raised with a mocking smile. "If you really underestimate my skeleton warriors, you are looking for death." Ji Yunfan immediately ordered the skeleton warriors to attack. After the skeleton warriors received Ji Yunfan's attack order, they rushed out like living people, one by one like sharp swords, and the alloy bone knives in their hands drew a series of alloy lights in the void and flew out instantly. With a puff, the first Orc Wolf Riders who rushed over were directly chopped through the chest by the alloy bone knife, as if they were made of paper, and fell backwards one by one. After the Orc Wolf Riders in front were pierced by the alloy bone knife, these skeleton warriors did not stop. With the manipulation of these alloy skeletons, these skeleton warriors whizzed past like a ghost. The alloy bone knife actually had a soul, and circled around the mysterious arc, stabbing 2 Orc Wolf Riders in a row. More than a dozen skeleton warriors took the lives of 7 or 8 Orc Wolf Riders in an instant. Stephen, the short and fat man, looked at Ji Yunfan's skeleton warriors' performance in disbelief, staring at the alloy skeleton warriors who were like tigers entering a flock of sheep with an unbelievable look on his face. Is this still a skeleton warrior? When did the skeleton warrior become so powerful? He was now considering whether he could use his own methods to get rid of Ji Yunfan. Now the alloy skeleton warrior was holding the alloy bone knife, like a killing god, and began to flexibly reap the lives of the Orc Wolf Riders. Oh my god, am I dazzled? Is this really just a skeleton warrior? Many mercenaries finally reacted and shouted excitedly. Don't get close to him, everyone, hold on, this is a demon, a demon. Use a spear and axe to contain them and kill that guy. After the Orc Wolf Rider priest was shocked, he commanded loudly with a face full of fear, and his body began to retreat. Afterwards, the Orc Wolf Riders who were still entangled with the alloy skeleton stopped entangled with the alloy skeleton warriors. After they left, the empty spears stabbed at Ji Yunfan again. Ji Yunfan was shocked. Under such a fierce covering attack, I'm afraid that no matter how powerful he is, he will be hit. At this moment, alloy skeleton warrior number 1 suddenly appeared in front of Ji Yunfan. and suddenly there was a wave of space fluctuations and a squeak. When the spears in the air were about to fall on alloy skeleton warrior number 1, a space vortex suddenly appeared in front of it. Almost in an instant, all the spears were rolled up in the vortex and disappeared without a trace. Then alloy skeleton warrior number 1 turned into a reaper and took steps beyond the understanding of ordinary people. The steps seemed to be a kind of fighting skills. The body danced like a robot, and the alloy bone knife in the hand seemed to be waved by an invisible hand, drawing mysterious arcs in the void. At this moment, even Yunfan couldn't understand what was going on. Yunfan boy's really incredible. This time he really created a monster. Sakuden said in disbelief. Is there anything else that can make you fuss? Yunfan smiled and shook his head. This skeleton warrior of yours already has a soul and has even begun to recover his memories from his previous life. The skills he is using now come from his previous life. Generally speaking, except for high level undead, they can awaken their memories from their previous life. This is the first time I have seen a skeleton warrior awaken his memories from his previous life. As long as he has a soul, he can rely on his own practice to improve his strength. Sakuden said. Maybe I can train him into a god in the future. Yunfan said half jokingly. But what he didn't expect was that what he said actually came true, and no one also made a great reputation in the god continent in the future. You are really bold, kid. Do you know that, if you are not a god inherited family, only one god can appear among many people? Sakuden said disdainfully. Who can be sure of what will happen in the future? Just like you, a god, the former god, aren't you still my servant now? Yunfan smiled slightly and shook his head and said lightly. Yunfan, you bastard, why are you bringing up something that is not relevant? Sakuden shouted loudly in Yunfan's mind, looking very angry. You know, becoming Yunfan's slave has always been a pain in his heart, although Yunfan never treated him as a slave, and the two of them were both teachers and friends. Forget it, let's not talk about this for now. Didn't you just say that no one can practice? Do you know how to let him practice? Yunfan smiled slightly. How should I know? There has never been a skeleton warrior practicing before. Sakuden shook his head. It seems that I have to explore this aspect slowly by myself. Yunfan pouted. Only to hear the sound of pa 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 came out one after another, and a space vortex appeared in front of no one again. Those flying spears actually flew out directly from the vortex, and in the crisscrossing, they actually returned all the spears. Chapter 268 Chapter 269 Unexpected Skeleton Warrior. Oh my god, this guy can actually use space magic flexibly? Is he still a skeleton warrior? Sakuden looked incredible. Could it be that this guy was a space magician when he was alive? It must be like this, otherwise, how could he use space magic so skillfully? Sure enough, nothing around this guy is normal. Short and fat Steven pinched his waist and felt the pain. Then he realized that this moment was so real. Dante's skeleton warrior can not only control the alloy bone knife to fight the enemy, but also unexpectedly, he can control space magic to form a life-threatening weapon. This made short and fat Steven begin to doubt whether he could deal with Yunfan, even if he took out all the things he had saved. Space magic is the most difficult to control among all elemental magic. The last time Yunfan whimsically embedded the space magic core into the body of the store's number 1, he saw him controlling the space magic and flashing on the spot, which was enough to surprise Yunfan. But now skeleton warrior number 1 has mastered the space magic that even he has not mastered, which completely shocked Yunfan. In order to cast this space magic, in addition to the space magic element itself, it also requires a certain degree of mental power. Only when the mental power and the magic element are in harmony with each other can it be cast. It seems that without knowing it, number 1 has completely mastered the space magic core, and the mental power possessed by skeleton warrior number 1 is enough for him to cast space magic equivalent to 5th level magic. Even if Yunfan does not use the last trump card now, he is not absolutely sure to defeat skeleton warrior number 1. MMP, this is simply a fucking irony. Yunfan felt very embarrassed. The skeleton warrior, who was just a dark creature transformed by himself, had already walked ahead of him and took the lead in successfully casting the dimensional level space magic. Oh my god. What kind of monster is this skeleton warrior? The short and fat Stephen groaned nervously and exclaimed in astonishment. Those flying spears were like the death gods, harvesting the lives of many orc wolf riders. The surviving orc wolf riders were also completely stunned. Then the second wave of spears was released from the space vortex, flying in all directions, piercing the 8 orc wolf riders standing there stupidly in their mounts. Evil god. This is an evil god with a skeleton body. Run away. A panicked scream suddenly came out of the mouth of the orc wolf rider priest. The other orc wolf riders had wanted to escape long ago, but they had not received the priest's order. In their minds, the priest's order was like the order of God. After hearing the order to retreat, the few orc wolf riders left began to flee in all directions like dogs that had lost their homes. Even the orc wolf rider priest who had issued the retreat order flew away without knowing the direction. The development of the situation is always so unexpected. Even Yunfan himself thought that he would need to fight for a while longer. He never expected that the skeleton warrior number 1 he refined would be so powerful and have such a terrifying power. When Yunfan reacted, there was no living orc wolf rider around except the corpses. Wow, ha 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 ha, good guy, really perverted. Yunfan suddenly felt proud and laughed loudly. While talking, he walked in front of skeleton warrior number 1 and patted his shoulder hard. At the same time, the space vortex circled in the void and slowly disappeared. It seemed that nothing happened in the sky. Here, another 4 million gold coins. After putting all the skeleton warriors into the small world of the undead, Yunfan smiled and asked the short and fat Stephen, who was scared, for the remaining reward. At this time, the short and fat Stephen's eyes were still on Yunfan. When Yunfan's voice sounded, he suddenly realized that the short and fat Stephen had already given up the idea of defaulting on his debt. He had to take out 4 gold coin cards from his space ring with a painful look on his face and handed them to Yunfan reluctantly. Mr. Stephen, I originally thought that you would use the name of your Stephen family to oppress me and not pay the rest of my money. Yunfan said with a smile as he took the 4 gold coin cards from the short and fat Stephen. Damn, I did plan to do so at the beginning, but you are too perverted. I'm afraid that just that scary skeleton warrior is enough to make my people drink a pot. The short and fat Stephen thought viciously in his heart. How is that possible? Our Stephen family is the most trustworthy family. If I say I will pay you 5 million, I will definitely pay you 5 million. He has already handed over the money, and it is meaningless to threaten him. It is better to show his righteousness. However, the short and fat Stephen felt a pang of pain in his heart. You know, those gold coins were all taken out of the family business with great effort. But then Yunfan's face turned cold in an instant. Yunfan looked at the short and fat Stephen with a cold gaze and pulled out a spear next to him. Yunfan said lightly, we have already settled the account just now. Should we settle other accounts? And the fat Stephen's face became very ugly. Mr. Dante, haven't we settled our accounts? How could there be other accounts? I think you must have made a mistake. Mr. Stephen, I think you should have heard of my name. Yunfan said with an evil smile. Fatty Stephen's face changed drastically again. He didn't know how to answer Yunfan's words. He hesitated for a moment before he said carefully, Baron Dante's deeds are no secret in our empire. As a dignified imperial baron, he will definitely not make things difficult for a small person like me, right? On the other side, Zaire and Ogden Rodney, the grandfather and grandson, had also walked over and stopped, looking like they were watching a good show. They had heard about some things about Yunfan, and they were very curious about what Yunfan was planning. Chapter 269, West Coast Gromtown. I have been hunted by members of your Stephen family more than once. What should I do? Yunfan said with a wicked smile. Dear Baron, as the saying goes, every wrong has its perpetrator. I have never hunted you. Besides, I'm just an external member of the Stephen family. It will be useless if you kill me. The short and fat Stephen suddenly felt cold all over. After a tremor in his heart, he quickly forced a smile and said with a shrinking step back. Yunfan said lightly and did not say any other nonsense. He felt refreshed in his heart and secretly thought that having strong strength was indeed good. In the past, when he met members of the Stephen family, he had to pretend to be a grandson, but now he didn't need to. Tell the people of your Stephen family for me that, if you find someone to deal with me in the future, you must find someone powerful, not those useless people. This. Although the short and fat Stephen was very angry when he heard what Yunfan said, he didn't dare to show it at all. He was afraid that, if he showed it, Yunfan would use him as a scapegoat. He could only nod and say, Lord Baron Dante, I will definitely pass on what you said to the family intact. If that's the case, it's great. The short and fat Stephen didn't want to walk with Yunfan, so they chose to start their journey early. Brother Dante, don't you have a grudge against their family? Why did you let him go? Zaya asked curiously. Everyone has their own code of conduct, just like me. Even if that guy is a member of the Stephen family, as long as he doesn't offend me and violates my rules, I won't do anything to him. Yunfan said. But no one on this continent does this. Zaya pouted slightly. They are them, and I'm me. Yunfan said lightly. Dante, you are really good. To be honest, I have never heard of your theory before, but I think it makes sense. Ogden Rodney responded. There is an old saying in my hometown. It is called coming out of the mud without being stained. Who knows, there may be some guys with good character in the big divat of the Stephen family. If I kill them indiscriminately, what is the difference between me and those guys? After leaving the short and fat Stephen, Yunfan and his team rushed all the way to the outside of the forest. The roads they took were all the roads they had walked before, so they were much faster than before. On the way, after several days of rushing, Yunfan and Zaya did not encounter any major crises on the way. Finally, they walked out of the forest and returned to the town of Grom on the west coast in the evening. Compared with more than half a month ago, Yunfan had experienced the adventure of the Tomb of the Demigod, and both his strength and mental outlook had changed a lot. After a series of baptisms, Yunfan's courage and knowledge have been greatly improved, and his temperament has also changed. All this happened without Yunfan knowing it. In the evening, the west coast Grom town was filled with a relaxed and happy atmosphere, and the Baron came back. The west coast Grom town has changed a lot since Yunfan left. It used to be sparsely populated, but now many chambers of commerce have begun to slowly settle in the west coast Grom town, and the sound of bargaining can be heard from time to time on the streets. Brother Dante, your west coast Grom town has changed a lot. If it goes on like this, I believe it will become a medium-sized city in a short time. Zaya said excitedly. Yes, my goal is to build the west coast Grom town into my kingdom. Yunfan said ambitiously. In the following days, Yunfan began to try to use his own origin fire to treat Zaya's illness. Although Zaya's illness was more difficult, the use of the origin fire still had a good effect. Yunfan believed that, as long as he was given half a year, Zaya's illness would be completely cured. Greetings, sir. I wonder what your purpose is? In the depths of a hidden forest, a scarred man said respectfully to a masked man in a black robe. Did you know that a new baron has come to the town of Grom on the west coast? The masked man in the black robe said calmly. Of course, 3 of my leaders died in the town of Grom on the west coast. The scarred man said angrily, but soon his face changed, and he asked in an inquiring tone, does the town of Grom on the west coast belong to your lord? Dante, how could that kid be my man? The masked man in the black robe suddenly became fierce. Remember, you must get rid of this kid no matter what. But sir, it is said that the defense of the town of Grom on the west coast is no longer what it used to be. It is probably difficult to complete what you have ordered with just my people. The scarred man said hesitantly. Don't worry about this. I will send a team to help you in 2 days. The masked man in the black robe said calmly and turned away. It seems that the news I heard is true. This guy named Dante must have made things difficult for the Stephen family. Otherwise, these old ghosts would not have sent a team of people to me for no reason. But it's okay this way. Yunfan has been busy with the construction of the town during this period. He didn't pay special attention to the bandits. Even if he knew that a group of bandits were plotting against him, he didn't care much now. After all, he now has the combat power of 2 8th level strongmen. Ordinary people who come to make trouble will not get any benefits at all. Yunfan didn't expect that after just half a month, the town of Grom on the west coast actually had entertainment places such as bars, To be honest, since he came to this world, he has been busy for his own safety every day. He has never been to a place like a tavern. He doesn't know what the difference is between the taverns in this world and the bars in his original world. Yunfan smiled slightly, stretched his waist, and turned into a tavern. The tavern was noisy, neon lights on the roof were glittering, several young women dressed in revealing clothes were entertaining guests. Some adventurers and merchants gathered in groups of 3 or 5 at the tables and chairs in the hall, talking about their adventures. Some people had red faces, holding wine glasses in their hands, and were drunk, and talking without restraint. The tables were filled with delicious food. Chapter 270, The Saint of Wine. Some young male and female waiters kept shuttling among them, delivering fine wine and dishes to them. Most adventurers lived on the edge of a knife, not knowing whether they would see the sun tomorrow, so they would choose to indulge themselves. Yunfan walked straight to an empty table in the corner of the hall and sat down. Then a shy waiter dressed as a bunny girl quickly walked up to Yunfan and asked politely, "Excuse me, sir, what do you need? Doesn't every tavern have some special signs? What are the specialties of yours? Give me some." Yunfan took out a bag of gold coins, which probably had hundreds of gold coins, and said carelessly. When the bunny girl waitress saw that Yunfan was very generous, her eyes lit up immediately. She bowed more respectfully, revealing 2 glittering buns. She smiled calmly and said softly, "Okay, please wait a moment, I'll be right there." All kinds of troubles had been solved by him. Yunfan was ready to enjoy his new life. Yunfan leaned lazily on the chair, squinting his eyes, and looking at the various adventurers and businessmen in the hall. These people had just returned from adventures outside, or were about to enter adventures. Some of them had just escaped from danger, and some were about to enter unknown dangers. They were all releasing their emotions in a bohemian manner, and enjoying life to the fullest. After a while, a bottle of amber wine and some special fruits and food were delivered to Yunfan's table by the bunny girl waitress. This wine is called Amber Drunk, and it is the most famous wine in Koffa. Our tavern paid a lot of money to ship it here. Because this wine has a high alcohol content and is strong, adventurers love to drink it. I hope you will be satisfied. After putting down the things, the bunny girl waitress pointed at the bottle of amber wine, bowed and retreated. Yunfan was originally a big foodie. When he was on Earth, he was rated as a global food connoisseur. After coming here, in order to satisfy his taste buds, he used a variety of medicinal herbs to prepare seasonings. Yunfan couldn't wait to grab the meat, and started to eat it. Although the taste was not as delicious as the food he baked with special seasonings, it was also quite good. He unscrewed the bottle, and took a small sip of Amber Drunk. A faint fragrance wafted into his nostrils. He was a little disappointed. This wine was not as strong as he had imagined. He took a big sip of Amber Drunk, and the sweet taste was mixed with a spicy flavor. After entering his lower abdomen, the mellow fragrance lingered in his mouth, giving Yunfan an alternative feeling. Although it tastes good, the alcohol content is a little low. Little brother, I think you are here to make trouble. You dare to say that the alcohol content is a little low? You should know that Amber Drunk is the wine with the highest alcohol content in the entire empire. Yunfan's words had just fallen when an old man in a golden magic robe looked at Yunfan unkindly and said. Although Yunfan could not feel any magical fluctuations from the old man, he felt that the old man in front of him was not simple. That's because you have never drunk wine with a higher alcohol content than this before. If you have drunk it, you would not say that. Haha, you kid really dare to say anything. I have traveled across half of the continent, and have never drunk wine with a higher alcohol content than this. Have you drunk it? The old man in the golden magic robe smiled, and shook his head and said, what if I really drank wine with a higher alcohol content than this? Yunfan did not laugh, as if he was stating a fact. If there is such a wine, you can find it, and let me taste it. How about I promise you something? The old man in the golden magic robe laughed and said, he did not take Yunfan's words seriously. At first, Yunfan knew nothing about the identity of the old man in the golden magic robe, so he did not take the other party's promise too seriously. Yunfan, the old guy in front of you is not weak. You'd better not offend him. Sakurden suddenly said. What? Is this old man in front of me a saint level expert? Yunfan said half jokingly. You guessed it right. This guy in front of me is indeed a saint level expert. Sakhardan said evilly. Fuck, isn't it said that there are only 10 known saints in the entire continent? How come a saint suddenly came to my territory? Yunfan did not have much, or for the saint level. I just don't know which of the 10 saints this old man in front of me is. Just as Yunfan was talking to this old man, Zaire and Ogden Rodney happened to come to the door of the tavern. Isn't this the saint of wine, Atli-Willaston? Ogden Rodney came to Yunfan, looked at the old man in the golden magic robe in surprise, frowned and said, "Old friend Ogden Rodney, I didn't expect to meet you here." The old man in the golden magic robe nodded, took a sip of amber drunk, and replied with a smile, "You are so busy, why are you here?" Ogden Rodney glanced at the old man in the golden magic robe, with a hint of inexplicable emotion in his bright eyes. "Ogden Rodney, you old man still have this temper. Besides, you can come here, but you don't let me come. Isn't it, Zaire girl?" The old man in the golden magic robe, the wine saint Atli-Willaston, said to Zaire with a smile, and then stared at Ogden Rodney with a smile. "Grandpa Willaston, why are you here? We haven't seen each other for a long time. Zaire misses you very much." Zaire looked at Atli-Willaston with a happy face. "Little girl, your grandfather looks like he doesn't want to see me." Atli-Willaston gently scratched Zaire's little nose and said with a smile, "How is this possible?" Zaire shook his head and said, "By the way, little girl, how is your physical condition now?" Atli-Willaston seemed to think of something and suddenly became serious. "Grandpa Willaston, I'm in much better condition now. Under Brother Dante's treatment, I believe I will be fully recovered in less than half a year." Zaire said happily. "Brother Dante, is the Brother Dante you are talking about the Baron of Gromtown on the west coast? He actually has this ability? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 271 Past Events. Atli-Willaston was obviously a little bit unbelievable. He knew Zaire's condition very well. In order to treat Zaire, Atli-Willaston even visited many famous doctors on the continent. Atli-Willaston looked at Ogden Rodney with an inquiring look, wanting to get his answer. Zaire is right. If nothing unexpected happens, Zaire's condition will be completely cured in another 6 months. Although Ogden Rodney was very unhappy with Atli-Willaston, he still told the story. "What? Is what you said true?" Atli-Willaston almost shouted excitedly. Because he was still a little bit unbelievable, his voice was very loud, and almost everyone in the tavern could hear it. "I must go to see this baron named Dante. Show him gratitude." Zaire and Ogden Rodney looked at Atli-Willaston very strangely. "What's the expression on your face?" Atli-Willaston said. "He is Brother Dante." Zaire pointed at Yunfan and said, "I really didn't expect that the little brother could have such profound medical skills at such a young age." Atli-Willaston was also slightly surprised when he looked at Yunfan. To be honest, Yunfan is now a little curious about the relationship between Atli-Willaston and Ogden Rodney. The atmosphere between the two is very strange. They are very good friends, but Ogden Rodney always talks back to Atli-Willaston from time to time. Normally, the dignity of a saint cannot be insulted. Atli-Willaston should let Ogden Rodney look good, but now the two are not like that. Yunfan naturally didn't know that Atli-Willaston and Ogden Rodney were good friends who talked about everything when they were young, and their talents were almost the same. They once went out on an adventure together, but when they were adventuring, they met a woman and fell in love at the same time, but the woman chose Ogden Rodney in the end. The relationship between the two people also has the original good friends turned into bloody rivals. Later, Atli-Willaston broke through the saint rank, and in order to find a way to cure Zaire, Ogden Rodney forcibly used magic that he could not bear and hurt his origin, and he was trapped at the peak of the 8th rank and could not break through. Later, Atli-Willaston had never married. He regarded Zaire as his own granddaughter. Now that Yunfan can find a way to cure her, Atli-Willaston is naturally grateful to him. "Since you can cure Zaire's illness, even if you can't find a high strength wine, I owe you a favor," Atli-Willaston suddenly said. The most powerful people in the entire continent are the 10 saints. One of them is definitely worth a lot of money and is very precious. If I can find a higher strength wine than amber drunk, will the senior row me 2 favors? Yunfan said jokingly. If you really find a higher strength wine than amber drunk, what if I owe you 2 favors? Aston shook his head slightly and said that he had an extraordinary obsession with wine. Otherwise, his saint rank title would not be wine. You old man, you're still obsessed with wine after all these years. Ogden Rodney said unhappily. You took Athena away from me back then. Do you want to take away my last pleasure now? Aston said with a grin. We are so in love, how can we describe it as taking away? Ogden Rodney glared at Aston and said angrily. Brother Dante, are you sure you can find a stronger wine than amber drunk? Ogden Rodney asked with saliva, just after he finished scolding Aston. Don't worry, Grandpa Ogden, it may not be easy to find a stronger wine than amber drunk in other places, but it may not be here. Yunfan said with a mysterious smile. I don't seem to have heard of any strong liquor here. Ogden Rodney was also a little confused at the moment. How could he know that Yunfan was going to brew wine himself? The brewing technology on the mainland is much lower than that in the original world. There is no distillation technology in this world. Brother Dante, you are not going to brew wine yourself, are you? Zaya seemed to have thought of something incredible and said. The girl is really smart. I didn't expect you to guess it at once. Yunfan said with a smile. Brother Dante, are you kidding? Brewing technology is not something that ordinary people can master. Although Zaya had guessed it just now, he still looked unbelievable. When did your brother Dante lie to you? You will know when I brew the high proof liquor. Yunfan smiled and shook his head. China has a brewing history of more than 5,000 years since Dukang. My long development of various kinds of wine is simply 100 schools of thought. Although the other world has mastered magic that no one on earth has mastered, it is only in its infancy in some technologies, and can even be described as ignorant. No, little brother, are you serious? If you can continue to provide me with high strength wine, how about I form an alliance with you? Aston suddenly said. Alliance on the continent is a very sacred thing. Once the alliance is formed, the 2 sides will advance and retreat together. In the next few days, Yunfan asked people to purchase some wines of decent quality. Yunfan used the distillation equipment he made a few days ago to put the wines into the distillation equipment for you to distill. Although the distilled wines did not satisfy him, these wines still made Aston feel very incredible. Wait until I collect some more materials, I will brew some wine for you to taste. Yunfan said with a smile. Dante, can you brew better wine? Aston's eyes have begun to shine. What's this wine? I just distilled and purified the wine I purchased. Yunfan pouted. Incredible, really incredible. There is actually a brewing technology on this continent that I don't know about, and I don't know his category of wine. Aston said in amazement. Chapter 272 Pre-war mobilization. It seems that I have lived in vain. I wonder if there is still room for you in your Baron's mansion. Senior, you mean to move into my Baron's mansion? Yunfan said excitedly. I just don't know if there is a place for me in your Baron's mansion. Aston said with a smile. Of course there is. It is my honor for you to move into the Baron's mansion. Master Dante, after this period of development, our town has more than 5,000 households and 4,000 soldiers, including 5 4th level professionals, 23rd level professionals, 102nd level professionals, 400 first level professionals, and the rest are ordinary combat soldiers. The whole town has 23 chambers of commerce settled in. According to the number of residents and the scale of construction of the West Coast Scrum town, it can no longer be described as a small town. O'Neill Leonard said to Yunfan. Uncle O'Neill, since this scale can no longer be described as a small town, let's officially rename it West Coast Grom City. Yunfan said with a smile. Okay, Master. O'Neill Leonard responded. By the way, Uncle O'Neill, I wonder how your body is recovering now? Yunfan looked at O'Neill Leonard gently. Master Dante, since the poison in my body was removed, my own strength has recovered 70% to 80%. Even if I encounter an ordinary 8th level high level strongman, it will be no problem to deal with it for a while. O'Neil Leonard looked at Ji Yunfan very gratefully and said, if that's the case, it's really great. Alarm, alarm, the mountain bandits are coming, everyone pay attention. Just when Ji Yunfan and others were discussing the development of the town, suddenly there was a noisy sound outside the door. Ji Yunfan suddenly frowned, stood up, and said solemnly, Uncle O'Neil, we are in trouble. Residents, everyone, pay attention. The bandits have appeared in the south of Grom City on the west coast, and are coming here. Everyone, prepare to fight. A huge shout suddenly came from the street outside, all of which were about the arrival of the bandits and the upcoming invasion. O'Neil Leonard, who was talking to Ji Yunfan, immediately exclaimed when he heard the voice outside, Master Dante, let's go out and take a look. Ji Yunfan didn't waste any words, and nodded directly. The two of them walked out of the conference hall very quickly. On the street, there were adventurers everywhere, and the merchant shouted loudly. These people were either drinking in the tavern, or enjoying themselves in the ecstasy place. When they heard the news of the bandits' arrival, they all left the room, and rushed to the street. Adventurers and mercenaries live a life of blood on the edge of a knife, and they have long been accustomed to this kind of danger. After they left the room, they all began to organize their weapons and armors in an orderly manner, and followed the source of the sound, to gather on the south street. When Ji Yunfan walked out of the Baron's mansion, and came to the street, he found that even some children and women were holding farm tools, and standing in front of the door with angry expressions. It seemed that these people had a deep sense of belonging to the town, and they did not want the stable life they had finally obtained to end. Ji Yunfan and others were already standing in front of the hotel. After a series of special training, the soldiers had already looked like soldiers. They were not panicked, and stood neatly in front of the Baron's mansion. The bandits are coming. We must not let them come back to ruin our homes. These damn bandits dared to invade the west coast Grom City. We must not let them succeed. Some residents of the west coast Grom City raised their hands and shouted, as if they were afraid that Ji Yunfan could not see them. At the door of the Baron's mansion, in addition to Ji Yunfan and his gang, there were also groups of adventurer mercenaries. The whole town was full of soldiers, all fully armed, waiting for Ji Yunfan's order. Residents of Grom City on the west coast, these hateful bandits are here again. They want to plunder your land, rob your money, and take away your wives and daughters. Are you willing to let them do this? Ji Yunfan said loudly at the door of the Baron's mansion. No, we don't want to. Since Ji Yunfan came here, Grom on the west coast has changed from a small town to a city. The people living here have gone from being poorly clothed to living a very prosperous life. They don't want to go back to the past. In many cases, the thoughts of ordinary people are very simple. As long as they can live a good life, they will do their best to protect it. Of course, we now have our own troops and new defensive walls. It is not impossible to protect the entire town, so don't be too pessimistic. Ji Yunfan encouraged everyone. Zaya followed Ogden Rodney and Atlee Willaston, and arrived at the door of the Baron's mansion in a short while. After arriving here, Zaya saw that there were nearly 100 adventurers and mercenaries, as well as his brother Dante, who were mobilizing for the war. Dante, do you need me to help? Atlee Willaston said. It's not necessary for such a small matter. Grandpa Atlee, please help. I also plan to use these bandits to train my soldiers. Ji Yunfan explained with a smile. Yes, only after experiencing the baptism of war can your soldiers be put to good use. Atlee Willaston nodded in approval. At this time, a young man dressed as a palace soldier hurried over from afar. He stopped and panted a little when he reached Ji Yunfan's side. Report to Lord Baron. A large number of mountain bandits were found more than 3 miles south of Grom City on the west bank. The leader is their leader Scarjace. There are about 1,000 of them. More than 1,000? It seems that the whole army of mountain bandits has been dispatched this time. I have been busy with the development of the town these days, and have not gone to wipe them out. I didn't expect them to come first. It's just right to catch them all this time to eliminate future troubles. Ji Yunfan smiled calmly and nodded. My palace soldiers, do you have this confidence? Yes. Protect Grom City on the west bank, and protect Lord Baron. Almost all the palace soldiers shouted loudly. Do I, a dignified 5th level master, still need your protection? Although Yunfan was very moved, he still muttered in a low voice. Chapter 273 Gunfight. Hey, there is actually someone in this bandit group who can use wind levitation magic. How could a magician fall to the level of a bandit? Yunfan said as he looked at a masked magician floating in the air in front of the bandit group. On the mainland, magicians have a much higher status than warriors, and wind magicians who can cast 4th level levitation magic are even rarer. As strategic resources, magicians are generally recruited by major families, or directly conferred titles by the empire. And there are many high-ranking warriors in the bandits team, which is very different from the information we knew about the bandits before. Could it be that there is something we don't know? From the actions of these bandits, they are not the ordinary bandits who are free and undisciplined. Could it be that someone is using the name of these bandits as a cover? If so, it will be troublesome. The dull sound of horse hooves came from far to near. Under Yunfan's arrangement, the soldiers of the palace had already dressed in armor and were fully armed in the front. The magic gunners stood behind the soldiers 5 or 6 meters away. They all took out their magic guns and looked at the direction where the sound came from with a calm and solemn expression. O'Neil Leonard saw that everyone had silently stood in their respective positions, and there was no nonsense. He directly blocked Yunfan in front of him. Although he knew that Yunfan was very strong, he was still worried about what would happen to him. Uncle O'Neil, you don't have to come to protect me at all. Yunfan smiled slightly and said to O'Neil Leonard, as your subordinate, it is my duty to protect your safety. O'Neil Leonard said to Yunfan very seriously. Just as everyone was doing their job and taking their positions, the dull sound of horse hooves hitting the ground hit everyone's heart like a muffled drum. A heavy and thick breath gradually spread to everyone's heart. In everyone's sight, the mountain bandits riding on horses, holding long knives in their hands, slowly appeared in the dust. From these mountain bandits, I feel a sense of Deadpool. O'Neil Leonard said with a very gloomy face. Deadpool? If it is Deadpool, where do these Deadpools come from? Do these so-called mountain bandits have any extraordinary background? Yunfan was very confused. The atmosphere of killing instantly enveloped the entire town. As soon as the figures of the mountain bandits appeared, they rushed over with sharp whistles, and the long knives in their hands shone with cold light. The majestic momentum of thousands of troops rushing together brought everyone a strong sense of depression. The front row of soldiers, get ready, open the safety pins of the magic guns, and when they enter the range, use the magic guns to attack immediately. Minimize direct combat with them. Yunfan ordered. Brother Dante, you must be careful, don't let anything happen. At this time, Zaya was a little nervous standing in the town, and said to his grandfather standing beside him, otherwise, Grandpa, go and help Brother Dante now. Little girl, it's really out now, don't worry, your brother Dante's strength is not that weak. Ogden Rodney gently patted Zaya's little head and said. Yunfan took out the shadow dagger directly from his space ring, and the cold breath slowly emanated from the dagger. Sensing O'Neil Leonard's gaze, Yunfan turned around involuntarily. Uncle O'Neil, what's that expression on your face? To be honest, I don't understand you anymore, young master. I feel that you are more mature than people of your age. I have only felt this feeling in very few supermasters. Uncle, you must be feeling it wrong. How can I feel any sense of vicissitudes? Yunfan couldn't help shaking his head. Everyone, pay attention. The range of the magic gun is more than 1,500 meters. Now the bandits have reached this attack range. Start shooting. Yunfan gave an order and kicked off the magic gun battle attack. Suddenly, the soldiers beside Yunfan and others had already chanted the magic gun. Magic gun bullets of different attributes shot out of the magic gun. Sharp wind blades, groups of burning fireballs, several ice cone-like icicles, and lightning bursting from the sky suddenly appeared and attacked the bandits who were rushing straight. Watching the bandits fall to the ground one by one, O'Neil Leonard couldn't help but exclaimed, this magic gun is so powerful. Even ordinary people can exert such a great power. I can't imagine it. Master, the magic cannon you mentioned some time ago, won't it be stronger than this? Compared to the magic cannon, this magic gun is just a child's play. When I make it in the future, you will know. One shot is like releasing a 6th level or 7th level magic. Yunfan smiled slightly. My goodness, can this magic cannon also be used by ordinary people? If so, then this world is crazy. O'Neil Leonard felt that what Yunfan said was too incredible, but deep in her heart, she had a feeling that as long as Yunfan said it, it would definitely come true. In fact, everyone has always fallen into a misunderstanding. The production of weapons is not for war, but for preventing war. When I have absolute force and can look down on all other forces, I can stop the so-called war. Yunfan said with a smile. The bandits in the front row were covered by magic in an instant and suffered a painful blow. In the whistling of wind blades, scars appeared on the bandits' bodies. The big fireballs fell down, and several bandits were completely engulfed by the flames. The ice cones and lightning behind also took the lives of more than a dozen bandits. However, there were about 1,000 bandits, and this wave of magic gun attacks only killed the first 60 or 70 people. The remaining bandits were all very scared, but they did not show any intention of retreating because of the death of their companions. They still rushed over desperately. We can be sure that these guys in front of us are definitely dead men. O'Neil Leonard said in a heavy tone. Only specially trained Deadpools can be so fearless of death. Do you know who wants to destroy our town? For a family, every Deadpool is very precious. Chapter 274 Battle. These Deadpools are absolutely loyal to their families. I'm afraid it's not as simple as the loyalty you mentioned. In order to train these Deadpools, those families probably used inhuman means on them. Yunfan curled his lips and said with some disdain. Just when the palace soldiers were preparing to use magic guns to launch the second wave of attacks, the mountain bandits who rushed to the front had a shield in their hands at some point, and the shield was engraved with layers of runes. It's actually a shield type magic armor, and so many appeared at once. If someone didn't deliberately support them, I would definitely not believe it. Yunfan said fiercely. You know, there are not many shield type magic armors like this. This time, more than a dozen shield type armors appeared one after another, and all the styles are the same. Generally speaking, this kind of standard magic armor can only be supplied by very large societies or families. It's incredible that this has become the standard weapon of the mountain bandits. You know, even the Royal Legion of the Imperial Capital is only treated this way. In the back row of the bandits, there were suddenly a bunch of crossbows in their hands. When the crossbows were raised, a stream of sharp arrows flew high into the sky, passing the soldiers in the front and shooting straight towards the palace soldiers. Yunfan summoned the alloy skeleton warriors with an idea and ran out from the front soldiers to block them. Although Yunfan wanted to train these palace soldiers, he didn't want his palace soldiers to be hurt much. Everyone be careful. Mainly defend. Yunfan said in a deep voice and commanded the magic gunners to fight back. The archers who were originally planning to attack the palace soldiers gave up their original plan to attack and defended when they saw the magic guns shooting at them. A stream of magic bullets with different attributes were released and all fell into the air. However, not all the bullets fired by the magic guns were blocked by the bandits. There were still more than 10 magic bullets shot down, and the strong force directly stabbed several bandits with lower strength to death on the spot, and many bandits were more or less injured. At this time, the wind mage suddenly began to chant magic spells. Because of the presence of Yunfan's skeleton warriors, this wave of bow and arrow attacks was all blocked by the alloy skeleton warriors. The arrows used to deal with the palace soldiers did not work. The palace soldiers did not suffer any damage and fired the second shot more quickly. The bandits rushed in with great momentum, but they were still suppressed. Under the impact of the bandits, Yunfan's skeleton warriors were motionless like gods of war, but the bandits suffered. The shield magic armor was restrained by these alloy skeleton warriors. Humph, the bandits are really just bandits. Even when they encounter skeleton warriors, they are so vulnerable. The guy sent by the Black Robe to help over there saw that the bandits' charge did not play any role and couldn't help but sneered. The bandit leader Scar held a big knife and his whole body was extremely cold. His eyes looked at the figure of the alloy skeleton warrior from a distance and he turned a deaf ear to the ridicule of those people. The crossbows in the hands of the mountain bandits were raised and another wave of arrows rained down. The palace soldiers used magic guns to fight back. The wind magician with a high level of cultivation in the mountain bandit team began to recite the powerful wind magic, the tornado spell. A rotating tornado slowly formed in the air, aiming directly at Yunfan and the palace soldiers. Seeing the tornado sweeping in, Yunfan was not too worried. Instead, he took out a magic scroll from his space ring and threw it lightly at the tornado. What others didn't expect was that the magic scroll turned into the same tornado. The two tornadoes met in the air, and for a moment, sand and rocks flew everywhere. Both the mountain bandits and the palace soldiers could hardly open their eyes. You think that with just a magic scroll, the tornado spell can fight against me, a real wind magician? Dante, you are too ignorant, right? The wind magician said in a cold tone. Who are you? You know my name? It seems that what I guessed is correct. There are indeed other people behind Shanwei. Yunfan said in a deep voice. Baron Dante, you can think of this, which proves that your IQ is not too low. The wind magician said with a wicked smile. I have never understood what the secrets of Grom City on the west coast are. Why did every baron who came to serve die? What do you want to do? Yunfan said slowly. What secrets are there here? Don't worry about you, the baron who is about to die. The wind magician looked around and said with some caution. It seems that there is indeed a problem here. Yunfan was not sure of his guess, but now he knows that his guess may be right. Damn it, you cunning little thing actually dared to trick me. The wind magician said angrily, but soon, his emotions calmed down again. Forget it, I won't argue with you. Anyway, you are about to die. What's the difference between knowing and not knowing? Are you so sure that you can kill me? Yunfan said with a smile. It's just a 4th level high level magician. When our people rush over, I will definitely kill you with my own hands. How about that? Haha. I really don't know why there are so many people in this world who don't know themselves. Yunfan's eyes flashed with cold light, and those who knew him knew that he was angry. In this case, let's see who is the real one. Archers, shoot. At this time, the palace soldiers not far from Yunfan looked panicked and wanted to block in front of Yunfan, but their speed was obviously slower than the speed of the arrows. A dagger suddenly flashed a cold light in the void and suddenly flew into the sky like lightning. With a snap, the sharp arrow shot at Yunfan broke into several pieces. At the same time, Yunfan's body suddenly changed position and came in front of the palace soldiers. He raised his hand to catch several flying arrows. So powerful, many palace soldiers exclaimed. Thank you, Lord Dante. After the crisis was resolved, the palace soldier said to Yunfan gratefully. Nothing, you are my soldier, I will not watch you die. Yunfan smiled and nodded, holding the dagger and returning to his original position, and then continued to pay attention to the surrounding situation with a calm face. Finally, after hundreds of bandits were killed and wounded, these bandits broke through the continuous attacks of the magic guns and faced the alloy skeleton warriors summoned by Yunfan. Suddenly, a war broke out. You must know that these bandits seemed to have made a perfect plan, fully armed, holding heavy swords, and even a dozen knights holding spears, fighting with the alloy skeleton warriors summoned by Yunfan on war horses. Chapter 275 Victory. The wind magician's face turned ugly when he saw this. What happened now did not develop as he expected, so he decided to take action himself. He chanted magic, and gorgeous light flashed in the air, falling on the palace soldiers behind him. Amid the fierce roar, the palace soldiers were already caught in the flames of war. I didn't expect this guy to be a 6th level wind magician. He should not be an unknown person in the entire empire, Ogden Rodney said, looking at the wind magician who was casting magic there. Grandpa, do you think Brother Dante will be in danger? Otherwise, can you help him? Zaya shook Ogden Rodney's arm and said, although Dante's strength is only 5th level on the surface, his true strength is probably not lower than this 6th level wind magician. So girl, you don't have to worry about your brother Dante, just watch carefully. Besides, with a few of us old guys here, how could he get into trouble? Ogden Rodney said with a smile. The palace soldiers were always behind the skeleton warriors summoned by Yunfan, constantly using their magic guns to attack and shooting different magic bullets at the mountain bandits who were attacking the skeleton warriors' defense line. The wind magician suspended in the void became the main target of the palace soldiers. After dozens of magic bullets whizzed in, the wind magician did not panic at all. After chanting a high-level wind magic defense, a 10-meter tornado formed again in the sky of the palace soldiers. Wherever the tornado passed, sand and corpses flew again, and rocks hit the mountain bandits and palace soldiers, and shrill screams continued. Even the mountain bandits did not expect that their wind magician would release such magic that did not distinguish between enemies and friends. After the tornado appeared, the wind magician floating in the air waved his magic wand again. The powerful wind element and intelligence quickly gathered in his direction, forming a defensive circle around him. Although the magic bullet attack from the rotten face was not weak, it was still far inferior to the 6th level magic, and smashed the magic bullets that attacked. The magic bullets finally hit the magician, but were blocked by the magic vortex. The 6th level wind magician himself was not hurt at all. It's amazing. This is the power of a real magician. Beside Yunfan, the palace soldiers looked at the wind magician's calm performance, and they all showed helpless feelings. Just as everyone was admiring the power of the 6th level magician in front of them, one of the palace soldiers suddenly shouted, "No, we can't cause any harm to this magician at this rate. When everyone's magic gun bullets are completely exhausted, we will be completely finished. Lord Dante, let's retreat. When we reach Grom City on the west bank, we can rely on our strong city walls to stay there." The words of this palace soldier had a great impact on everyone, and everyone became a little moved. "You should surrender obediently. My mission is only for you, Lord Baron. If you surrender obediently, we will not hurt you." At this time, the wind magician suddenly suggested, "Forget it. Can you take the words of a mountain bandit seriously?" After hearing the words of the wind magician, many palace soldiers laughed out loud. After hearing the words of the palace soldier, the face of the wind magician did become a little embarrassed. If it were normal, with his identity, when would anyone doubt what he said? But now he appeared here as a shady character, to complete the task assigned to him by the family. Although he was very disgusted with what the family did, as a member of the family, he had no choice. It seems that the identity of this wind magician is very special. Who is he? Yunfan muttered to himself. "Master, let me behead this guy myself, right?" O'Neill Leonard suggested. "Everyone is already familiar with the mastery of the magic gun. O'Neill, why don't you just capture this guy? I still have a lot of things to ask this guy," Yunfan said with a smile. "Okay, Master Dante." O'Neill Leonard nodded to Yunfan, and before others could react, he appeared next to the 6th level wind magician at an extremely fast speed. When the 6th level wind magician reacted, it was too late. A fist suddenly hit his head and knocked him unconscious. O'Neill Leonard said nothing, and directly carried the knocked out wind magician to Yunfan. Because the wind magician was captured, the whole bandit team suddenly became panicked, and fear instantly spread to everyone's heart. "Get rid of all these bandits." Yunfan glanced at the panicked bandits with the corner of his eyes. The bandits were all in a panic at this moment. One by one, they began to lose interest in attacking, but instead, they were eager to think about ways to escape. For a moment, the solid offensive formation collapsed in an instant. Even the bandits at the forefront were still fighting and retreating, and the bandits in the back row all fled in panic. The bandit leader Scar fled back quickly. After experiencing countless life and death situations, the bandit leader Scar was more afraid of death. While moving calmly and quickly, he silently thought about the subsequent escape methods. He even began to plan to sacrifice all his brothers to open up a way for him to survive. Almost all the bandits retreated like the tide. If the bandit leader Scar's men blocked his advance, he would forcefully push them away without hesitation. Many bandits could not move fast in this crowded crowd, and before anyone knew it, the bandit leader Scar had already rushed to the front of the escape. "The big leader has already escaped, let's run away quickly," someone in the bandit group suddenly shouted, and the entire bandit team became even more panicked. Many bandits even accidentally fell during the retreat, and were trampled to death by other bandits. "Don't let the big leader of the bandits go. Don't let these bandits go, otherwise it will be very troublesome when they come back." End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.